Unshakeable Challenge community and family. Welcome to Day 4, my friends. It's Relationship Day. If you're feeling good, get some energy in your body. Let's wake ourselves up from around the globe. Crank the virtual screen. Come on. Welcome to our VIPs. I see you guys. Beautiful energy. Our YouTube family. Hello, everyone. Look at this incredible energy. Holy smokes. Rukin. I'm not going to try that last name, but you and your daughter are beautiful. Mosammed, hello, you guys. Mona, Samilda. Beautiful energy. What are you bringing today? It's Relationship Day. Let's give a little love in the screen. Give a little love in this screen. Whether you have a relationship, you want to strengthen a relationship, we've got a big, beautiful day planned. Yes. Welcome, family, to Day 4 of the Become Unshakable Challenge. Can you believe it's the 4th day? I feel like we've been doing this for a month. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, it feels like the 42nd day of this challenge, and it's super cool because we've bonded. We've created a bit of a family here. If you felt the connection and the love, if you feel like you forged some friendships through the virtual screen or just in the chat box with people that think and feel similar to you, that there's a beautiful life out there, another level to tap into, go ahead and put "oh yes" in the chat box, because we have sure felt it on our end. We felt your love, your energy. And the really cool thing is there's actually some people that are tuning in for the very first time today. They might have seen a link on social media. They might have been you might have shared this with someone that you love. Like, holy smokes, I've been doing this free seminar with Tony Robbins and you should join. And I just want to welcome you. If it's your very first day today, put first time. You might be like, what did I jump into? All these people have so much energy. What's going on? And I just want you to know you're right where you need to be, okay? Today is Relationship Day, and I want to acknowledge you if it's your first time, and I also want to acknowledge you if you've been here every single day. If you've shown up every day out of the first 4, I want you to put "that's me" loud and proud in the chat box. And the cool thing is that really says something about your integrity and your commitment to yourself and to your growth and to this next level for you. So congratulations for that. We sure as heck are pumped up just to be here and serve you and support you guys. So I also want to congratulate those of you taking the next step and joining us in 48 days at Unleash the Power Within this coming March. A big round of applause, literal round of applause. To those of you, we have a lot of you coming in the chat box. Yeah, if you're going to Unleash the Power Within, you could put all in inside the chat box. We cannot wait to serve and support you. And I just wanted to give you a piece of love from me to you that truly, from experience, I know because I was you, I was at that event, it's the best decision that you could possibly make. So thank you for saying yes to yourself. The great news for today, Relationship Day, is that it's not the last day. So we still have 2 days to learn, to grow, to extract some juice and some knowledge. So for those of you like, oh my gosh, the challenge is going to end soon. I'm not going to have Uncle Tony at 2 p.m. Eastern to give me some inspiration. It's not done yet. So let's stay present and let's get the most out of this day. Deal? All right, cool. Yesterday was phenomenal, your Closing the Gap challenge. Seriously, you guys, I have to say, this is our 4th challenge. I've seen so many different communities learn this content from Tony and do these challenges and assignments. I think we all agree on our end of the screen that this is the most all-in, full-out group. Your videos, your vulnerability, your willingness to like let it rip. I mean, I'm so blown away by you. You've been amazing, so let's keep that up. If you haven't yet done your challenge on video, you know, we believe in 4th chances, so tonight might be your lucky night to get over any, you know, nerves you've got and get in there, Tiger. We cannot wait to see you guys playful out at Relationship Day and create a relationship vision. That's what we're going to be doing today. And at the very end of today, I'm going to be announcing some winners from yesterday's challenge. So play full out. Our team is watching, and you'll have a chance to really win prizes but go deep inside this content. Are you ready to get this day started? Yes? It's Relationship Day. We have the one and the only Sage Robbins joining us along with Tony. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to open our minds, open our hearts to what offering the currency of love really is. Not just saying that we love, but what does it mean to really give that? It's going to be a beautiful day, so let's give everything we have, and let's start with some amazing energy in our bodies. So we're going to bring Brian Bradley up here to just shake our bodies out a little bit. So I want to invite you to stand up right now if you're physically capable and just start warming up the body. And then let's welcome Brian here with that really beautiful energy that we have. 3, 2, 1, shake that building. Come on. Please help me welcome to the Unshakable stage, Brian Bradley.
Thank you, KK. Okay. Guys, let's get this started today. I'm hiding something from you because it's relationship day. When it's appropriate, I'll bring it out. So here we go. It's relationship day, remember that. So check these out. Pink socks for relationship day. There we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, since we are in relationship day, I want to show you a couple pictures. These were on the, of course, the internet has everything, right? And tell me what you guys think about this, right? Tell me what you think about a high heel. Anything wrong with that? Anything wrong with that? Think about being in a high heel. Well, when we see you at UPW, KK is running around in 6-inch stilettos, doing jumps and crazy stuff like that. And I guarantee you, her knee does not look like this. I can guarantee you she's not showing a degenerative knee where one side's wearing down and not the other. Aren't you curious why your knee hurts? Aren't you curious about why your back hurts? Aren't you curious about why your shoulder hurts? We go into the gyms all the time and you see things like this. Hyperice has this thing called the Hypervolt. It's great when you start thinking about what it's doing to the body, but is it solving the problem? Look, they have another thing called these Normatecs. I'm sure you see pro football teams wearing these on their legs, soccer teams, people at the gym doing those, people at different places like Restore and things like that, where they're trying to move your body's lymph and do this. You realize your human body was designed absolutely perfectly. However you believe it was designed perfectly. What we're attempting to do is we're attempting to build this accumulation effect over these 5 days, lock it in your brains until I see you again, to get you deeper and deeper and deeper into you taking care of you. So listen, I've said this before. Thank you for the questions on Instagram. I answer all my own DMs about Egoscue, about what you think about what you want to do with Robbins, things like that. I'll help guide you as much as possible, but it takes self-reliance. I'm going to read you one more thing before we get moving. This is out of our pain-free book. My working principle, Pete Egoscue, as an author and exercise therapist, is that the most important consultation that you have in your life is the one that you have with yourself about you, about what you're doing here and about what you're experiencing over these days. So let's take relationship day to the next level. Please listen to everything that Tony and Sage are talking about today. I've known them for 30 years. This is massive. What an opportunity. That's why I wore the pink socks. So let's put them to use. Here we go. Here's the pink socks. Let's go. I want you to get your feet pointed straight ahead. Remember, 5 degrees turned in is the new straight. So slightly turned in, fist width apart between your big toes, not out here, not like this. Get them here, and then we trap these big muscles in your pelvis to actually do their job. Now let's put them to work. Take your hands into that open fist position like this. And we're gonna go through what we call arm circles. So your feet are straight like this, shoulders are down. Here, pull the shoulder blades back, bring your arms up, and circle forward 40 times. Let's go. 40 circles. Keep going. 40 circles. Let me see what that looks like. That's awesome. Great job. You guys look amazing. Make sure those feet are straight. That is the critical event during this exercise. Great job. Straighten the arms, 40 circles. Anybody can do these. That's why we're on here every day. That's why we're on here every day. And now get your feet pointed straight ahead again. Go up and go palms up. Turn those thumbs back. If it hurts your shoulder, lower them down a little bit and then circle back like that. However you have to do it. Circle up and back. It's gonna look like, you're gonna try to put this, yeah, make sure you're loaded in this. That looks so good. Feet straight. Great job, guys. The family who does Egoscue together stays together. Let's go. Kids, you look amazing. Okay, drop your arms. Keep your feet where they are. Keep your feet where they are. And I want you to put your hands up here against your temple. So it's going to look like this from the side view. And you're going to close the elbows together. And then you're going to open them back up 15 times, back and forth. Let me see that. These elbow curls are amazing. Glide, yeah, get that shoulder blade to glide. You guys realize the key is to touch your elbows together. And why is it that dudes always look like they're giving birth to triplets doing this? Come on, guys, represent. Come on, guys. Oh, come on, close them together. She's crushing you. Come on. 3, 2, 1. Okay, just relax there for a second. Now take your hands and interlace them. Palms away. Take it straight up over your head. But remember, if it hurts your shoulder, you can stop here. Look up at your hands. Hold it up like this for about 15 seconds. Get those shoulder blades to move. But this is all hip driven because we have your feet pointed straight ahead. I can't wait to see you guys at other events because we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into this kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff you get when you're in this world. You get access to people like myself and Egoscue as experts in what biomechanics are all about. Now let's get this energy up because I know Tony and Sage. I've known them for 30 years. They don't want to come on here with down energy. Let's do a run. Let's put that right leg behind you. Get ready. Fizz up. Turn it out and go as fast as you can. Turn it on. The greatest abdominal exercise ever. Give me another level. Let's go. Turn it on. Is that my boy Marcos? Let's go. I can't see. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, switch sides. Pink socks and everything. Let's go. Ready? Oh, as fast as. Good job, kids. Way to make mom and dad work. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Day4. Pink socks and everything. Let's go.
Please help me thank Brian Bradley. Brian, thank you so much. Let's get into the chat box. Send him some love. Your energy's off the charts. Thank you for warming us up. And then all of you, are you ready to begin relationship day? To tap into this heart of yours? Well then stay standing. Get some energy in your body. Let's crank it in 3, 2, 1, go! And please help me welcome to the basement stage, Tony Robbins!
Boom! How we all doing? 1, 2, 3, shake the building you're in! Nice, Nicole, with your little one. There you are, Mary Hill. Hassan, Susan and her man. Make a sound that makes you feel great this morning, this afternoon, this evening. Oh, yes. Get some virtual or in-person high fives or fist bumps. Go for it. Say you rock, baby. And then sit down, get a little sip of water as always. You know the drill by now. Hydrate. After all that intense running. And then in your chair, create more energy than when you're standing. Go, wake it up. There you guys are. Nice, Megan. Alicia. She's got the moves. Richard, Emily, that whole family's going for it. Oh, yes. All right, if you're feeling great this morning, make that fist and shout yes. Say yes. Say yes. Awesome. Well, welcome back for day 4, ladies and gentlemen. Made it to day 4. 1.5 million beautiful souls out there from 195 countries in every time zone. Some people are watching this later on. Most people are watching it in real time, even though it's crazy hours. I'm really grateful for you guys to do that. And I'm excited about today. Let's 2-second review. Day 1 was all about breakthroughs, right? Not just learning stuff, but that moment in time when you go from it's impossible to not only is it possible, but I'm going to do something right now to make it happen. And we learned those shortcuts, the 3 quickies. Most people look for the strategy. We're going to look for first change our state. Without that, no strategy is going to work. And then we got to come up with a better story, a new set of beliefs. And then we can find the strategy that works. And that sequence matters, just like trying to crack a safe. You know the right numbers, wrong order, it's not going to open. And then we walked through quite a bit there, but really the essence was also how important energy is. How many have more energy now just as a habit from doing this each morning already, or afternoon or evening, right? Because most of us have been trapped because of COVID for so long, and then you get where you're not moving. So you can see even in your chair, you can generate that energy, and that energy is everything. Because if you're going to change something that's been around a while, a habit of thinking, habit of motion, habit of feeling, the only thing that's going to change it is a stronger energy. So you have to bring it up to that vibration to begin to create that change. And then you guys did these beautiful, old story, new story. We realized change your story, change your life. Day 2, we went into a portion of that story, the most important part, identity, right? We all have a definition of ourselves. And again, we learned, holy cow, the strongest part of any human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. So we define ourselves in negative ways. We'll still find a way to get there because we need the certainty. We know who we are. Otherwise, we have an identity crisis. We wouldn't know how to behave, where to go. And we realize our identity is shaped not so much by the truth, but by what we do. Smart people can do dumb things. Dumb people can do smart things. By the way, can mean people ever be nice? Of course. Can nice people be mean at times? Yes. So it's really driven more than anything else by your state. And we showed you this whole idea that you could have this compelling future and a strong identity, but what you really need also is that strong physiology, the change of focus, the change of language that makes things work. And yesterday was about creating your own economy, understanding that it's all about finding a way to add more value. To become more valuable, you can make 2, 4, 5, 10, 100, 1,000 times more money in the same amount of time, but you got to bring more value. And that means you got to get more skills, more abilities in mastering yourself, and or skills and abilities in whatever it is you're going to deliver so that you're more valuable. And it's the real secret to it all. And yesterday we really got you to take a look at how you can build a brand. Because if you work for somebody else or you've got your own company, that's really the essence of it all. I told you about my friend Mike Glickman, who once he knew what that was able to change people's experience of who he was by just a sincere act of people judging who he's doing by giving back in a unique way, whether it's taking out the trash, if you recall. And last night you did your exercise about where are you right now in your career or your business versus where you want to be and what you're going to improve it. And then, again, people participated. So it's been a great 3 days. Today is, I wouldn't say the most important subject because if you don't manage your emotions and your state, you can't do today. But it's probably the area where there's the most pleasure or the most pain, depending upon whether you dabble in this area or you work to master it. And that's relationships. Because when it comes to love and passion, and I don't just mean love, we're going to talk about intimate relationship primarily today, but these principles work in almost all relationships. But where it matters the most is intimate relationship. And the reason it matters most in that area is what will take a person to their knees, man or woman, faster than to feel like they're not enough for the person they love or they're not loved. If you want, jot down right now the 2 biggest fears, the primary fears of all humans. Male or female doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter, sex doesn't matter. Humans is we're all definitely afraid we're not enough at times. I'm not young enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not handsome enough, I'm not sexy enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not successful enough, I'm not something enough. Who's ever felt like you weren't enough, but not enough for somebody whose love you craved? Who's ever felt that, right? Because that fear is so deep because it leads to your deepest fear, one deeper, and that is if I'm not enough, then I won't be loved. And love is the oxygen of the soul. You know, if you have a human baby, it's different than other animals, but if you have a human baby and you don't physically touch, hold them, kinesthetically love on them, they develop something. Doctors and nurses in the room, you know what it is. Maybe you want to type it in the chat box before I say it so people know. What can happen to a baby that is just not physically loved enough as an infant? They develop something called failure to thrive syndrome, and they literally die. Our competitive advantage in life is not claws and teeth. We're not born in an egg and then father and mother aren't there. A lot of animals, their father and mother isn't there. Others, the mother and father is there, but for a short time. They take care of you for 6 months or a year. Humans and primates have the longest period of dependency on another creature for their survival. And so we have it for how many years? If you leave a baby animal, a bird, within 6 months, get your ass out of the nest and fly. But in our human world, how long are we dependent? 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, these days, 35 years. Who knows, right? So we really have to understand that our need for this is so large, but also when we've lost love or a feeling of attraction or the feeling of passion, it can feel like such a loss that our brain generalizes and says, I don't want love. No, what we don't want is the loss of it. How many follow the difference in what I'm talking about here? If it makes sense, say aye. So the biggest challenge is of your own spiritual growth will not be found in your ability to meditate in a cave. That's easy, right? Your biggest challenge spiritually is to be with someone whose love you crave so much that what they think matters so much to you that if they don't express it that way, there's this great sense of loss. So learning not to feel that loss, not to take things personally, to understand we all have different behaviors and patterns is huge. And here's the other biggest mistake, if you want to jot it down, that happens in relationship. Most people go to an intimate relationship looking to get something. And they have a bunch of expectations. And if their expectations aren't met, they're upset. And the truth is, a relationship is a place you're supposed to go to give something. Because how many of you ever experienced being stressed out and then someone needs something, they're really in a tough place, and you're able to help them, and your own state changes. Even though your own situation hasn't changed, helping them transform you. Who can relate to this in some way? I'm curious. Helping somebody you cared about made you feel, right? Well, that's what relationship is. But we've been all raised in different ways, and some of us have been raised to think that someone is supposed to look after, love us every single moment a certain way, whatever that way is, based on conditioning, based on culture, based on belief systems. But the truth is, relationship is the most beautiful place on earth because, as I said the other day, what happens the minute you experience something that is really enjoyable, really beautiful? What's the first thing most of us want to do? We want to share it with somebody we love. Why? Because jot this down. The purpose of a relationship is to magnify human emotion. You can say it's to have a relationship, it's to have kids, it's to experience love. Yes, but what it does is it magnifies everything, doesn't it? The reason you want to share that experience is in sharing it becomes more in you. You can only experience so much joy, happiness, pleasure in yourself. But when you have someone that's a beloved for you and you share it, it goes to a different level. So today, what we'd like to do is, listen, we do a 5.5 day, almost 6 day program for our platinum partners just on love and passion, just on relationship, because it's so valuable. And when I met Sage, it's like I used to take a tape recorder around with me, and whenever we had a challenge, I'd say, I'm not going to, I don't mind a challenge. I don't mind an argument, but I want to get underneath what's behind this. I want to understand what you think or believe differently or what I'm seeing differently. I want to understand the principles. And I began to realize that while, it's politically correct to say everybody's the same, we're not. Our brains are wired differently. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, there's different wiring there. There's different biochemistry, obviously, that happens between a man and a woman in every 28-day cycle. So we can't we can agree with political correctness, or we can begin to understand there are differences in how we perceive things that can be based on cultural and conditioning, and there's some that are based just on biochemistry, on wiring, the way we use our brains. So what we're going to do here is just give you a couple of little tools in this little short time, less than 2 hours, but I think we've got some that are really fun and simple. Again, I'm always looking for things that can give clarity quickly, something you can use pragmatically. You don't have to just remember it all. There'll be a couple of things out of this day that'll be tools that you can go and immediately improve any relationship. And if you're not in an intimate relationship, we're going to point out how do you create the ideal relationship as well. So that's kind of where we're going. Who's excited about this subject? I'm curious. Who's up for this subject? Perfect, perfect. So think about it this way. If the quality of your life is really the quality of your relationships, I mean, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your creator, however you define that, your relationship with your friends and family, and your relationship with your intimate. But the one that can have the most dynamic impact besides your creator and yourself is your intimate. Because it's easy to have a great relationship with friends because you have less rules of what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to act, because there's no sensuality involved, so there's not all that goes with it as well. And by the way, what's the difference between a friendship and an intimate relationship? The only difference is intimacy. So you can be friends with anybody, but if you're going to have an intimate lover that's going to be with you in whatever form, by the way, there's all forms of relationships, obviously. Love is love. Whether it's heterosexual, cis as it's called today, or whether it's a lesbian or gay relationship, all relationships where there's love matter, and we're all humans. And we're all just in Earth School trying to figure this out. And because the stakes are so high in relationship, because our need inside to feel enough and loved is so high for all of us, some on the surface more than others, but it's all there, it makes this subject so charged. So I'd like you to just pretend you're an anthropologist today, or you're an alien from another planet, and you're just coming here and you don't have all your stuff stored up and reacting to what somebody says. None of that stuff. Because reacting doesn't enhance relationship. You know it and I know it. But if we can just pause and just look at patterns, you know, they're not absolute. There's no absolute patterns about men versus women, because every man has feminine energy and masculine energy, right? Every woman has feminine and masculine energy. Some of us use more of one or the other. Hell, this week you can see me, I can rip the building open and I can cry my eyes out over stuff. I got both those parts in me. That's one of the reasons I'm able to reach so many people. My wife's the same way. One of the most feminine human beings I know, and also more masculine than most men I know. Rip the building open if she wants to, right? So it's not this pigeonholing bullshit that so many people in the culture do. What I want us to do is step out of that and just see if there's some patterns that we can recognize that have tendencies, depending upon how much of that expression you're making in your body, feminine, masculine, whatever. But more importantly, if we understand it, then we can win this game of relationship together. Because a lot of people don't feel like they can win. How many have been through more than one relationship in your life and have some feelings about it, right? You know? I mean, human beings, you know, 200 years ago, the average lifespan was still only 32 years old. Today, 200 years later, it's 78. It's more for women than men, by the way. Women live longer. But what's interesting is that's a huge change. Well, now most people have multiple relationships, and then if you've had multiple relationships and they didn't turn out well, many people store that as failure. But here's likely you to consider, if you were to step back, every relationship you've ever had gave you the opportunity to learn something about yourself and about others. If you learned something, there was no failure in that relationship. I mean, there's no master class we're given when we're kids or even young adults about here's how to make a relationship work. That's part of the challenge. So we fumble and learn by failure. That's how you learn. A lot of people learn in business. Well, that's why most people don't make it in business, right? 50% are gone in the first year, as we said, 80% gone in 5 years, 96% are gone in 10 years. Because most people jump into business, they go, I know this thing. I know, like, you know, how to write code. I'm the best code writer in the world, so I'll make my own company. And it works for a while when it's just a little company. But it's more than just writing code or designing the fashion or selling the product or negotiating. There's these other dynamics, and because people don't study those in advance, they get over their head. Well, the same thing happens in a relationship. We think our experience is the same as the other person, and it's not, even though we love them. And if we can enter the other person's world with compassion and love, any relationship can explode. And passion only comes about when people feel safe, when they feel appreciated, when they feel respected, when they feel loved. Hard to have it in any lasting way without those core emotions there. So I think in order to get this done, since it's such a loaded place, who's up for just looking at patterns and not reacting and saying, it's not absolute, but I'm going to see what the patterns are I can improve? How many up for that there, ladies and gentlemen? And I want to say this up front. Our approach, meaning the way Sage and I look at it, is 100% responsibility. It's not a 50-50 thing. It's not like you do your part and I'll do my part. That leaves both people empty. Unless you're willing to take 100% responsibility for what's going in that relationship, you go, how can I? I can't control what they feel. Yes, but you can change. You can appreciate. You can understand. If you don't give up, you can get through. Most people give up too soon, and it's because they don't know how to win. So today we're going to look at his patterns. We're not going to say they're absolute. And again, I don't care your LBGTQIA, I think, plus, or your cis, or whatever labels you may have put on yourself. Beyond the labels, there's human beings underneath, and there's patterns that human beings get in regardless of gender, sexuality, or belief systems. And if we can notice those, we can come closer together, and we can have such richer life. And by the way, I got to tell you something. I have the privilege of working with, literally over my lifetime, millions of people. And when I wrote my book on wealth, on finance, I wanted to empower my billionaire friends, write something strong enough they would be pleased and impressed and useful, and that the average person would do. So I did Money Master the Game and Unshakeable, as many of you know, and they reached. They're #1 New York Times bestseller. People's lives were changed. But one of the things that came along the way there is, I interviewed 50 self-made billionaires, all people, nobody from the Lucky Sperm Club, right? They all did it from scratch on their own. No one gave them anything. And what was interesting was, and I'm going to generalize here, so this is not absolutely accurate, but I'd say, in my perception, from the people I got to spend a lot of time with, there was probably out of the 50, maybe 4 or 5 that are really, really happy people. So on the surface, you see, oh, that's because they're all about money. No, it's because they haven't prioritized relationship. You look at these people, money doesn't change people. It just magnifies who you are. If you're mean and you have a lot of money, you have more to be mean with. If you're caring and giving, you have more to give, right? But what happens is when we focus on one area and we miss relationship, some of the most successful people that I've known, they're not that happy. I don't know anybody, we've all heard the phrase, I don't know anybody who said, I wish I spent more time at the office on their deathbed, right? The quality of our life is the quality of our relationships, and especially this intimate one. So let's see if we can't today, make some pattern identifications, take some steps, learn a couple of tools, and significantly enhance our relationship. But to really do that, since there's so many mixed emotions, sometimes what's useful to do is get really clear and get reconnected to the why. One of the things I learned from Jim Rohn, who was one of my first mentors, was, he used to say, Tony, why is more important than how? His other way of saying it was reasons come first, answers come second. If you got strong enough reasons to do something or to master something, then you're going to figure out the how. And so I'd like to just start this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are in the world communicating with me, by doing a little closed eye process. So just real brief. And we're going to stand up, we're going to get in a great state, and you're going to close your eyes, and I'm just going to ask you some questions. And as I ask those questions, I want you to search inside yourself for the answers. And sometimes I may ask you to make a sound or something of that nature. Notice when I say make a sound, there's a scientific purpose behind that. If you use words, use one part of your brain. If you think and make sounds, especially spontaneous sounds around a feeling, it goes deep in the deepest part of your unconscious. It goes almost to the reptilian portion of the brain, where a lot of our fight or flight happens that messes up a relationship. So if you'll just make a sound and just trust the sound, like we did with Warrior, for example, remember, or Lover, don't judge it. Just make the sound that it'll enhance the feelings and get you there. So let's start with the why of relationship. How many have ever had a relationship experience, even if you have lots of lousy ones, who've had moments in relationship that were really beautiful, that were cherished? If you stripped away everything else, they were some of the greatest moments of your life. Sensual moments, romantic moments, loving moments. You agree? Then let's do this. Let's see if we can't stack those in our body, because here's something else, please jot down. The biggest challenge that makes people's lives not work and their relationships is called negative stacking. That's what I call it, negative stacking. Stacking is, I'll give you an example. Have you ever Have you ever snapped at your kid or a close friend, and after you snapped, you felt terrible because it really wasn't them in that moment? It was you were overwhelmed or stressed. Who can relate to this in some way? Say I. So if you get upset with your kid and you overreact, you're not reacting to this moment, are you? You're reacting to the fact that it happened again. Your brain goes, it's always happening. And when you stack all these negatives, you overreact. But you know, in the beginning of a relationship, you stack all the good things, don't you? Oh, isn't she amazing this? Oh, isn't he brilliant this way? Doesn't he or she do this? Oh, I love this little, and you stack all the things. In fact, you probably tell your friends, oh, he's like this, she's like that, right? And your friends are like sick to their stomach. Shut the hell up about this person, right? But you stack positively. So maybe before we look at the skills, let's try and go back to some memories and let's stack how good it feels, because that'll make you pull forward and use these skills. In other words, a little bit of a compelling future, sort of, by remembering times that are already there. And if you had no experience your entire life that was ever wonderful, number one, that's bullshit. You just have covered it up. But number two, and you may have had a lot more negatives than positives. I'll buy that. But there are moments. And if you've never had any, then make some up, because we're able to create. We're not here to just manage our circumstances as human beings. We're here to create our lives. Our creator, the universe, whatever you want to call it, has given us one unbelievable gift: choice. We get to choose what to focus on. We get to choose what to believe. We get to choose how to act. We get to choose how to feel. And we get to choose how to interact. So let's choose well. So I'd like you, if you just for a moment, stand up wherever you are in the world, shake your body out, shake it out, stand up, stand up, stand up. And just for a second, face somebody on the screen so we get our energy high. And if there's somebody in the room, you can point them. Otherwise, just point at anybody, whether they see you or not, and go, I own you, baby. No, I own you. No, I own you. Now outdo their energy for 20 seconds with your voice and body. 1, 2, 3, go. Wake it up. Wake it up. Come on, even more energy. Use your voice too. Come on. Sound of excitement, ladies and gentlemen, come on! Oh, yes! Close your eyes! Yes. Now, stand tall, feel strong, and close your eyes. Now, with your eyes closed, I want you to just think for a moment of one of the most beautiful or romantic or sexy or sensual moments of your life. I know you got plenty. If you don't have any, make one up. What the heck, right? But just think of a moment in your life. It could have been decades ago, years ago, could have been moments ago. I don't know. Maybe you were busy right before you got on this call here, on this program. What's one of the most romantic, sensual, or sexy moments of your life? And then, you don't have to, I'm sure you got plenty. Pick one. And just for a moment, if you can, imagine stepping into your body as if you were there again now. Like right back in that moment. And as you do, I want you to look through your own eyes and see what you saw then. I want you to hear what you heard then, either what they said to you or what you said to them. That's it. Or what you thought in your own mind. And then breathe the way you were breathing in the moments that felt most beautiful or sexy or sensual or alive. As you breathe it and feel it like you're there, I want you to notice, what were you focused on when it felt so beautiful to be with this person? And you felt this connection. What were you paying attention to? What were you appreciating about this moment within yourself and with this human being? How were you breathing when you felt incredible? What were you focused on? What were you experiencing? That's it. Now touch your hands, both your hands to your heart if you would. Physically touch your heart and breathe deep into your heart. And as you touch your heart and breathe into your heart, you may remember that where focus goes, energy flows. So I want you to breathe deep in your heart. Feel as you take breath in, the heart filling with oxygen and blood flow. And it feels so good. And I want you just for a moment to step back in that moment as you're breathing in your heart, feeling all of these beautiful feelings. And I want you to make a sound of what it felt like. And I don't want you to hold back. Really strong sound what it felt like when it was most ecstatic, most beautiful, most romantic, most sexy. Make a sound out loud. Go ahead, make that sound. Do it again. Use your whole body. Extend your body if you want to. Make the sound of what it feels like to be in this situation. And then I want you to think of another beautiful moment. I want you to think of another. Keep breathing in your heart, feeling the beauty and strength in you. Think of another beautiful, romantic, sensual, or sexy moment. Special moment that you really loved at any time in your life. Step in your body as that person, back as you were in that moment. And then once again, breathe deep. See what you're noticing, what you're appreciating that made it. What was special about it? What made it so special? How did it feel? What were you focused on? What were you enjoying? What were you appreciating? What were you experiencing? Breathe deep into your heart and feel that moment like you're there. And then once again, in a moment, I want you to make a sound of what it feels like at the peaks of these moments, ecstatic moments, beautiful moments, exciting moments, loving moments. Ready? Let it build up in your body. Feel like you're there. Let it build up. 1, 2, 3. Make the sound of it as strong as you can and enjoy it. That's it. Do it again. Double the sound and enjoy it. Double it. One more time, triple that sound. That's it. That's it. That's it. And as you feel this, what made it so special? What were you focused on? What were you noticing? What were you enjoying? That's it. And I want you to just feel it. What would you be willing to do to have this feeling all the time in a relationship? What would you be willing to do to have this feeling all the time? Like, doesn't mean every single moment, but every day, throughout the day. What would you be willing to invest in the happiness of the other person in order for you both to feel this way? What would you want to give to the person you love so you both feel this way? Here's a question. What would you be willing to let go of in order to have this kind of love all the time? What would you be willing to let go of? What expectation, what belief, what emotion, what past emotion would you be willing to just let go of so you could be free and have this feeling? What belief used to limit you in relationship that you could just let go of about you or them or deserving or desire? What fear would you be willing to let go of to have this feeling all the time? If you're committed to have this feeling all the time in a relationship, what would life be like? I want you to think of one more moment now, one more great moment in your life, another separate moment that was beautiful, that was gorgeous, that was romantic or sensual or sexy or playful or connected. Think of one more. And I want you to step in your body, breathe in your heart, and step in your body like you're there again. Step in your body like you're there. See what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt, breathe the way you were breathing. Fill up with that feeling. Notice what you're noticing, appreciating. And then make the sound with all you got of how good it feels to feel this alive, this much joy, this much love. Extend it. Make a sound out loud. Go for it. Now double it. Double the sound. Extend your body if you want. You let go of your heart. Just feel it all. That's it. That's it. That's it. Beautiful, beautiful. That's it. That's it. That's it. Now, what would you be willing to give to enjoy? What would you be willing to let go of to have this all the time? Feel it deep in your heart and soul. Decide this is something you're going to make happen. You're going to recreate it. You're going to awaken it, or you're going to attract someone to feel it. And then open your eyes. Give thanks for the beauty of what you've already had in your life, which means you can create it again, or a whole new level of it, or a deeper level. And then I want you to sit down just for a moment, and I'd like you to write in the chat 2 things if you want. What made it special, and what would you be willing to let go of or give up? What fear, what belief, what limiting thing in order to create this all the time? Go ahead and sit down if you would, feeling strong. And put in the chat if you're willing to. What made it so special? And what would you be willing to do to have this all the time? What fear would you be willing to let go of? What limitation? You got about 2 or 3 minutes. Go ahead and type if you would. What do you got to let go of in order to create this again even more deeply? Let go of being fear, for being hurt. Allow myself to feel safe, which means faith, because it's not always feeling safe. What's the new belief that would replace the old belief that would free you? What's a new belief? What's a new emotion you could replace the fear or the frustration or the anger or the anxiety or the loneliness with? What new belief would empower you? What's a deeper truth? What does your soul know is true when you're not in fear? If you weren't afraid of rejection, if you weren't afraid of being hurt, what would you do? What would you experience? What would you share? What would it be worth doing or letting go of in order to have this kind of love and passion? What are you willing to commit to create this in your life? What qualities would you want to bring to this relationship to enhance it or unleash it or connect it again? What's gotten in the way and what are you going to do instead? Jot it down. What's gotten in the way in the past? In you, what's gotten in the way, not somebody else. And what do you need to do instead? What would you do now to make it better? You guys are doing such a beautiful job. Yes, just let go of it. What belief would you let go of? What emotion would you let go of? What old story? What's an old story you need to let go of? And what would be your new story in relationship? Those putting in the chat, this is great. Thank you. Love seeing you identifying what's gotten in the way. I've allowed myself to let fear get in the way of intimacy. I've felt like I'm not enough. I've pushed my partner away, or I've pushed potential partners away.
Do you remember how we kissed?
My heart's opened up. Stay with them. I just want to keep reading what's out there, guys.
By the end, my face was sore.
Partner died of suicide 4 months ago. I'm so sorry. A lot of people blame themselves, but we all have free will. We could have done everything right. What we do inside our heads is what creates our life. What's got in the way? What needs to change for you to go to the next level of your relationship? What got in the way? What will you be willing to let go of? What limiting belief, what limiting emotion, what past memory would you be willing to just let go of in order to have this kind of beauty in your life every day?
What are we gonna do?
Beautiful vulnerability and truth, everyone. Thank you for sharing. Gorgeous.
What are we gonna do now?
Some people cried because they had so many loving moments. Some people cried because they felt like they didn't have enough. That's all the mind. Let's just cherish what we want and see how to create more of it.
You make me feel love.
What would you be willing to do to have this feeling all the time? Not every moment, but where it's the vast majority of your time in your life and your relationship. What's gotten in the way? What needs to change? Nice Gita, flowing with love. Beautiful. Amber, nice honesty about the fear of abandonment. I would never be afraid of being abandoned, because if you left me, I would just follow you. That's it. These are beautiful, beautiful, vulnerable, and truthful. Thank you, everyone. You can see everyone feels like they're not enough at times. It's part of the human condition. Many of us judge ourselves much more harshly than anyone else could ever judge us, including those we love. Often when people are reacting to us in such a painful way, it's really not even about us. It's what's going on inside them. They're so hurt inside. And you're a safe place to vent sometimes. What's the old story of your relationship? What's the new story going to be? That might be a nice question to answer. What's the old story of relationship for you? What will the new story be? What's the old identity? Victim or victor or whatever. What's the new identity? Let's keep applying all that we know here. What's the new belief that you want to live by? What's the new story versus the old story? Jot that down if you would. My old story of my relationship was, the role I played was, the identity I was. My new story is, my new identity would be. Nice. Beautiful. About another minute and a half. What was the old story of your relationship? Or relationships? What's going to be the new story of this relationship or a new one you're about to create? That's beautiful. What's going to shift inside you? What's the new identity for you in a relationship? What are you going to do different? What are you going to bring to this relationship? That'll be my next question. What are you going to bring to this relationship? You know, if you bring it, it's going to grow. But most of us keep going and go, what am I going to get out of this relationship? That's when the relationship starts to break down. Beautiful, beautiful insights, guys. So many. It's going by so fast. I'm trying to keep up with all of you. This is gorgeous. This is something worth going back and reading and just noticing all the patterns that we have as human beings around the world. Just humans being honest. How beautiful. About 30 seconds left. Old story of your relationship. What will be a new story you create? Finish up over the next 15 seconds. All right, generate a little energy in your body now. Again, in your chair, wake it up again. Crank a little energy. Come on. Make the sound of positive anticipation when you're excited about something. You're anticipating something great's going to happen. We need a kiss cam. Kiss cam. Come on, wake it up out there! How many, just taking a few moments, how many got more connected to how important this is in your life? Make some noise if that's true. And how many were honest with yourself and saw some of the things you need to let go of that are getting in the way at times of love or passion in your life? How many got that too? Awesome. So let's start at 30,000 feet just for a second. You know, every year in January, I think it's January, sometimes it's February, the President of the United States comes and gives his State of the Union address. Right? And they almost always say the union is strong. Sometimes it's stronger than others, right? But if you really think about it, if you want to know the state of your union with another human being that you adore and love, the state of your union is what determines the quality of your relationship. In other words, if you're both in a lousy state, or one's in a lousy state and one's in a great state, it's not going to be a great relationship. Right? Remember the first day we talked about just even energy, and I said if you got two couples, remember a couple that is totally in love and their energy is super high and strong, what kind of relationship they're going to have? You all said magnificent, beautiful, certainly not going to be weak. But if energy drops, the state of the union has lower energy to like good or okay, it's the same level of love is available, but it won't be expressed, it won't be felt. And if both people, let's say it's been locked up, for months or years in the situations like we just did with COVID, and frustrations about work, and the kids can't go, and all those stresses, and all that starts to go, you can get in those lousy states. In those lousy states, people say things to their beloveds that they wouldn't even say to a stranger. Who here has ever said something to someone you love most that you would never say to a stranger? It was that mean, even though you're not a mean person. Who's done this here? Say I. So the state of your relationship is the state you bring to it. And you know what? You might want to jot down, there's only two forms of communication. Because, by the way, everybody's a great communicator when they're in a great state, right? Everybody, including me, is a lousy communicator if you're in a lousy state, right? That's when we screw things up. Our brain works differently. It's like the computer not have enough electricity. So there's two types of communications. There's a loving response and there's a cry for help, right? A loving response or a cry for help. But here's the problem. You all know what a loving response looks like, but a cry for help looks different than you expect. Sometimes your partner's cry for help looks like this. What's wrong with you? Why do you always do this? Why are you always late? Why don't you follow through all the time? That's really a cry for help, but it doesn't feel like it, right? But if you can realize their needs are not being met, they're freaking out inside. It may not even have to do with you. If I rub your arm like this, and I do it right now like this, you probably barely feel it. But if you've got a big wound right here, a gaping wound, and I touch you with a cat hair, you're going to jump out of your skin. Now, the goal is not to say you've got all these wounds, that's your problem, because we all have them in different places at different times, if we're honest. Some more than others, but we all have them. So the kind thing is to know that when somebody comes at you is to go, okay, I don't want to respond to a cry for help with my own cry for help. What are you talking about? You do that all the time. It's not me, it's you. Oh my God, now the state of the union is not good. Because what state are we bringing? Frustration, low energy, overwhelm, stress. So probably the greatest gift of a relationship is, you got a great relationship if in the beginning at least, and hopefully you maintain it through ever. If you don't, you can pick it back up. But a great relationship is someone you love so much you want to be even better for them. You want to be a better person for them and yourself. That's how you know it's a great relationship versus what am I getting or not getting. See, when you start measuring in a relationship, the state of the union is going to be messed up because love is not about a measurement, is it? When you totally love somebody and you're out of your mind in love, what will you do for them? Put it in the chat, shout it out loud. What will you do for them, ladies and gentlemen? Come on, do it with your body, show me. What will you do for them? Anything. True? Is it true? You do anything when you're totally in love. But what happens is when the chemistry dies down and then you get frustrations and you stack frustrations in your own life and with your partner, then sometimes you change the identity of your partner or the story of your relationship to they're selfish, they don't care, it's all about them, they just want control, they don't even know I'm here. And once you tell those stories, there's an old phrase, tell a lie big enough, loud enough, and long enough, sooner or later people believe it. You know who taught that? Adolf Hitler. And most of us are Hitler to ourselves and to our relationship. We tell ourselves a lie about our partner because of our frustration, and it changes the state of the relationship. Think about this. When you first were attracted to someone in your life, when you really felt that early stage of it, what were you willing to do for them? Anything. What lit you up? Making them happy made you happy. Who can relate to this? Make some noise if that's true for you so I know I'm getting through to you, right? But sometimes after people are around each other enough, there's something that interferes. And jot it down. It's called the law of familiarity. The law of familiarity is a law of how human brains work. And here's what the law says. If you're around anything enough or anyone enough, if you're on anything enough, you tend to take it just a little bit for granted. That's the tendency if you don't consciously overwhelm it. Just like the tendency is to look at what's wrong in the world. We have a negative bias in our brain because it's a survival instinct. Oh my God, what could hurt me? I want to be able to fight it or run from it, right? Or I need to freeze and hope it doesn't notice me. Saber-toothed tiger. Well, that pattern is there. It's like you don't have to plant weeds. Weeds grow automatically. So what you got to think about here is, okay, if I want a great relationship, in the beginning I was willing to do anything. I brought something to it because you're recording, right? How many of you in the beginning marketed yourself to your partner? You marketed yourself. You found ways to make yourself come across the best way you could, right? And then some people get a relationship and they forget, just like in business, it's all about innovation and marketing. If you don't innovate for your customer and find better ways to meet their needs, satisfied customers even go away. Raving fans stay, right? And if you don't market and make people want to do business with you, then there's a breakdown here. So in the beginning, the State of the Union is great because you brought a great state. How many of you in the beginning of the relationship brought joy or playfulness or love or sensuality? How many say those are things you brought? Make some noise if that's true. But then gradually, somehow we get comfortable and that law of familiarity comes out. I'll give you a way that's not relationship-based. Maybe it'll help you. How many of you ever had, at one stage of your life, let's say you're a young kid or even a young adult, and there was like a car you wanted, or maybe a special car that meant to you like a level of progress or achievement? You know, you want to have this certain car. Who can relate to that metaphor at some stage in your life, right? And you get this brand new car, and it's a car that you dreamed about, and you're driving the car. Remember the new car smell? Maybe you're driving by, maybe you see yourself in that car in the bank mirrored windows as you're driving by, right? But what happens if right after you have that brand new car, you come out of the office building and there by the edge of your car, there's a scratch. Somebody scratched your car. Please do me a favor. Make the sound of what you feel when your brand new car has that scratch. When you first see it, make the sound. Show me with your face what happens. Come on. Now, after a while, you got to deal with it, and you got to go to the next meeting or go home. So, like, you try to, all right, get it fixed later on. But it really bugs you, doesn't it? Because it's your new car. And then what happens? About 2 weeks later, you come out of a shopping center or someplace, and there's another scratch. Make the sound of the second scratch. Make the sound. Show me with your face and your body. What's that scratch like? Come on. Oh, my God, I can't believe some idiot scratched my car. Didn't even leave a note. Now you're really stressed. So now you try to avoid that side of the car, right? You try not to look at it, right? And you come out, of a movie theater one night, you come back, and there's a dent. Ladies and gentlemen, show me with your face. What's the sound also if you got a dent now? Come on. On your new car. But after about 6 months, there's 4 or 5 scratches and a dent. And what do? You go, it's a car. Who knows what I'm talking about? You're now so familiar, it's a different reaction. And by the way, I wasn't talking about your car, I was talking about your relationship. That's also what happens there too, if you don't consciously change it. Because what starts happening, jot it down, what destroys relationship? Expectations. Expectations. Expecting people to be a certain way will lead to pain. Expectations yourself leads to pain. Now, we can't eliminate all expectations every moment, but if we're feeling upset, jot this down. Trade your expectations for appreciation, and your whole life will change in that moment. Trade your expectations for appreciation, and your whole life will change in that moment. So if you want to know what it takes, and by the way, when you're appreciating something, your partner, they feel connected, they feel appreciated, they feel respected, they feel admired, and that leads to love, and that leads to passion. But if they don't feel that, it's a different game. And in the beginning, you usually gave that. So think of it this way. Write this down if you would. 95% of success in a relationship is selection. I believe, in my experience, working with hundreds of thousands of couples and singles, more than hundreds of thousands, millions at this point, I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, 95% of your success or failure in a relationship starts with selection. Now, so you go, well, thanks a lot. Where were you when I was selecting? I would like to have had this criteria. Right? But I'm not talking about that. See, you're missing it. I haven't told you what selection I'm talking about. It's not who you select to be in relationship with. That certainly plays a role. But even more is which part of you select to bring to that relationship on an ongoing basis. Do you bring the bastard, the bitch, the complainer? Do you bring the whiner? Do you bring the lover? Do you bring the playful one? Do you bring the sensual one? See, how many of you realize you got lots of parts inside? How many realize we're not one personality, we have lots of parts, right? How many have a part of you that gets pissed off or fearful easily at times? At times, make some noise if you do that, right? How many have a part of you that can step up and crush the problem if you really get in state, right? How many have a part of you likes to play and be a kid and have fun? Let me hear some noise out there. So the question is, who are you bringing to this relationship? Not just who are you getting. Because see, the fastest way for me to change you, and if you ever watch me, like if you watch Tony Robbins, or, I'm Not Your Guru on Netflix, or you've ever seen the interventions that I do, or you'll see when you come to the seminar, is you'll notice that I change me. And that's what changes the other person. I change my approach. If I do the same thing every time, you know what it is, you're going to react the same way. But I always am changing, doing something different. That's why it's interesting. It's never the same. If you change, you and I are in what's called a cybernetic loop. If you're in a relationship with someone, a friendship, any kind of relationship, certainly an intimate relationship, you're in a cybernetic loop, which means what I do affects you, what you do affects me. So if I change what I'm doing, that will shift you as well. The fastest way to change you is change me. How many follow this? Say I. So if you decide that I want to have a great relationship, your mindset has to be, I am 100% responsible for the state of this relationship because I'm capable of changing my own state, my physiology, my focus, and my language. I'm capable of changing that for my partner. I'm capable of creating a compelling vision for our relationship. I'm capable as a human being to find the way, even if I don't know the way. How many of you can relate to what I just said is true, that there's a party that has those answers already? So the state of the union is the state you bring to it. So the question is, what are you bringing to it? The question is, what part of yourself are you bringing? In the beginning of your relationship, you tend to bring a different part than later on. In fact, I tell people something. If you think you're at the end of a relationship, are you going to behave the same way than if you think it's the beginning of a relationship? No way. True? So think about this. In the beginning of a relationship, you'll do anything. At the end of a relationship, you're preparing to protect yourself and end this thing, right? I tell people, if at the end of the relationship, right before the end, you do what you did in the beginning, there won't be an end. Because you're going back to what created it in the first place. If that makes sense, say yes. Say yes. So I want you to think of it this way. The state also shapes the next piece. There's two things that affect relationship most. We'll put up on the screen. The state you're in and the state you bring, and the meanings you create. Because meanings also affect state. Another way of saying it is emotion, right? Think of it this way. State is emotion. Anger, frustration, love, joy. Emotion comes from meaning. If I think you're disrespecting me versus I think you are challenging me versus I think you're coaching me versus I think you're loving me with your comments, meaning is going to change what I feel, my state. If that makes sense, say I. If you think your own within yourself, if you think there's a problem you have in your life right now and you think, well, the reason I have this problem is God is punishing me. That's the meaning you come up with. That's going to put you in a pretty lousy state. What if you think God is challenging you? What if you think this problem was a gift from God because it's going to make you grow? If that's the meaning, you're going to go in a different state. Or what if you realize it's not God at all? I've just been a lazy bastard in this situation, right? How many see how the meaning creates the emotion and the emotion affects the meaning? How many see this here, ladies and gentlemen? So the different parts of our brain or our being will create different meanings. And if you're an anthropologist, you'd say it's not men or women, it's not gender. The goal should be able to use the masculine and the feminine parts of ourselves. That whatever's needed, we can bring it up. Like if you want to be able to paint a beautiful canvas, you don't want one color. And some of us have favorite colors, more masculine, more feminine. But the ideal is to have both choices. How many buy that? If you buy that, say yes. Say yes. But we do need to know that if we're more associated or connected in moments, whether a man or a woman, to our feminine, there are going to be patterns of how we perceive things differently than if we're man or woman, doesn't matter. We're more connected in that moment to our masculine energies because they process differently in the brain and the biochemistry. And so our state affects the meanings, our meanings affects the state. And so one of the challenges with meanings is that we all have cultural conditioning, and then we have our own biochemistry that's different. Everyone has different cultural conditioning, different families, different backgrounds. Some were very religious, some not religious. Some with very strong standards of how you had to behave, some with total flexibility. Some people were micromanaged, some people were left to be free to themselves. And we come together in the beginning, there's all this chemistry, so it's easy, it's a great state. And then as we're around each other, we bump into each other's different meanings, and that's where a lot of stress can often come up. And again, it doesn't matter if it's gay, lesbian, heterosexual relationship, this shows up with just humans. Right? Just human beings. And one reason is, write this down, because the human mind distorts, deletes, and generalizes. Write down those 3 words. My mind, the human mind, distorts, deletes, and generalizes life experience. What does that mean, distorts, deletes, and generalizes? Well, we don't experience life. Whatever happens, have you ever seen somebody go and play that telephone game where they whisper in somebody's ear and someone else whispers in the ear, and by the time you get to the end, it started out as a monkey had a banana, and now it's I got a diamond ring. You know, it's like completely, there's no relationship whatsoever. Who knows what I'm talking about? Has ever played this game, right? Well, that gets magnified even more when there's something emotional and when you have different conditioning in your life. So the human brain doesn't remember everything. There's right now, there are literally millions of things you could become aware of, but your brain is mostly a deletion device, meaning your conscious mind can only handle so much input. There's the feeling right now of your skin against your clothing that you're probably not thinking about till I mention it, or the feeling of your heartbeat, or the pulse even in your ear or your neck if you were to touch it, or the smell of your neighbor after all that jumping up and down, right, or whatever it is, right? There's things you could think about from the past, the present. Your experience of life is not life. It's a few things you focus on. And there's only a few you can focus on at once. So our brains are always generalizing to make it easier. Like, okay, well, you always do this. No one always does anything. And when you say that, it's going to piss them off, but you're going to believe it because you've generalized, because that's what brains do. But you got to catch yourself. Just like saying, well, the law of familiarity is what does it. Well, if you settle for, like, it'd be natural to, if you had to go to the bathroom, just go to the bathroom, pull your pants down, and do it right here. And there are parts of the world where that's appropriate. But most of us have decided, in order to have a better quality of life, even though that's, quote, natural, it's not what we're going to do. We have a higher standard. I'm going to wait till I get to this little place called a restroom, right? But there are parts of the world where that's totally appropriate and accepted, aren't there? People driving through parts of India, people drop their pants and go to the bathroom right there. It's acceptable in some parts of India, isn't it? It's not funny, it's the truth. So, but we've learned to go beyond just what's natural in order to have a better quality of life. It's natural to be fearful, but if you let yourself be fearful because it's natural, your relationships are going to suffer. So let me explain. We distort. That's what the brain does. We delete. Let me give you an example. If you're really, really pissed off at somebody, remember I said this the other day, you ever gotten pissed off at somebody and you remember everything they've ever pissed you off with? How many know what I'm talking about here, right? Or the example I gave you is when you're really totally in love and there's nothing wrong with life, right? Because in order to be totally happy, you have to delete all the things that could piss you off. In order to be pissed off, you have to delete, not notice, all the things that would make you happy with this person. So if we can understand that all humans distort, delete, and generalize, then we can learn to question our generalizations instead of putting them on people. And that will change the meaning, and that'll change the state. So what I want you to understand is, think of it this way. If we take 100% responsibility for the state of the union, we can make anything work. We can make a relationship thrive. Now, some relationships will have a longer distance than others. Some people have more values in alignment. But jot this down if you would. What makes a relationship work is things in common. What makes a relationship work is things in common, especially values. What makes a relationship passionate is things that are different. But it's not different values, it's different energies. Like masculine and feminine energies is one example. like, light and dark energies. If you're in sensuality, having both energies and be able to use them, move back and forth, makes people feel more alive. So here's what I'd like to do. We're going to take this general 30,000-foot view, and let's see if we can break it into some yard posts, some things that if you'll understand, if this happens, it's going to mess you up. And so I can tell you my experience dealing with literally hundreds of thousands of couples, probably millions at this stage. But better yet, let's use science. The most respected person in the area of scientific study of a relationship is Dr. Gottman and his wife. The Gottmans have been studying relationship, John and Julie Gottman, for 50 years. And they have this like love lab, they called it. Literally, they've got, I think it's 50,000, or I can't remember the number of hours of people that go, and they live in a hotel, and they videotape them around the clock. And they learned so much about human patterning. But they learned so much that today, John and Julie can listen to any couple for 15 minutes, and within 15 minutes, they have a 91% accuracy to tell you whether or not that couple is going to get divorced or not within 5.5 years, 5 to 6 years. 91% success ratio. Now, how can they do that? Well, it's because of some patterns. So rather than just reading what's on the screen, because they're putting some things ahead of time there, I'll come back to those. All I want you to get is, if you got 91% success in knowing someone's going to get divorced or not within 5.5 years, you must have learned something. And so the most important thing the Gottmans have learned is what they call the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And I want to give these to you because if you notice these, you'll see where you violated them. I violated these at times. I'm sure you have too. But if you violate them on a regular basis, holy crap, you're in trouble. So what are those 4 horsemen? Well, the first one that will mess up your relationship is criticism. Criticism. And guys, if we can put that on the screen, that'd be helpful. So criticism. And nobody wants, that's not it, guys. it's the 4. You're going to all these other things. Right? The first time we're showing this to everybody, so it goes there. So criticism, nobody wants to be criticized. There are tendencies that are different for male and female about what get criticized. Like women very often, feminine energy, not just women, can be shared in advice very often with other women without a reaction. Men in the area, maybe sports might be that way, or if someone pays someone to tell them, but men can take your advice as being critical. When I say men, I should say masculine energy, because it can be a woman who's in her masculine energy. But no one, just the universal, no one wants to be criticizing. And does that mean that you can never have a complaint? Of course not. Everybody has problems, frustrations in their life, and you got to be able to communicate them. But what we're going to show you today is how not to criticize, because criticism kills a relationship. Kills. It's the slow killer. And so how do you avoid that? Well, you got to know the difference between criticism and a complaint. And let's jot down what that difference is. When you're criticizing someone, you're not just telling what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, you're also telling them they did it to you. That's what makes it criticism. There's blame involved. A complaint can be, man, I'm feeling really frustrated right now because I'm not getting through to you, and that's my responsibility. I haven't been able to get through to you, honey. But I really want, I'm not upset with you. I'm frustrated, but it's not with you. That's a complaint within myself, but it's not a blame. And a person can hear that. Then they want to help. How many understand the difference between complaint and criticism here? Make some noise if you can do it. And human beings, in our nature, when something's really painful, there's 3 things we usually do. 1, we try to ignore it if we can, hoping it'll go away, but if you ignore a problem, it rarely goes away. 2, we tend to blame something. There's 3 things we can blame. We can blame events. 9/11 happened, that's why this occurred, right? This happened in my childhood, whatever. We can blame an event. Events are great to blame because events will never interrupt you and go, bullshit, you're lying. Lots of other people in 9/11, they're fine. So we love to blame events, right? Second thing we blame is other people. Your parents, who you brought up, the background, your friend, your lover, your husband, your wife. The third thing you can blame, of course, is yourself. And blaming yourself is not the same as taking responsibility, because when you blame yourself, you beat yourself up. What happens when you beat yourself up? Does your energy increase or decrease, my friends? Put it up. Increase like this or decrease? Which one? Come on, put it in the thumbs up. There we go. Yeah, it's down. And when your energy decreases, your connection to your partner decreases. The likelihood of negativity increases about tenfold. So you don't want to blame someone else. You don't want to blame yourself. You don't want to ignore it. You don't want to blame events. What you want to do instead is take responsibility for what you're feeling and figure a way to improve it. But if you want help, we're going to show you a technique to create help. So criticism, just right, kills. You got to get. People don't realize because it happens slowly. It kills a relationship, right? The feminine wants to be seen and appreciated. The masculine wants to be admired and respected and appreciated. We all want to be admired and respected. We all want to be seen because we all have masculine and feminine in us. What's the second horseman that'll destroy a relationship that, by the way, when they see this pattern in a 15-minute conversation, they can see whether criticism's showing up or not. The one that's even bigger, throw out number 2 for everybody here, is when that person starts, put it up on the screen, please, number 2. This person starts to be in a place where they start to show contempt. Now, what is contempt? Contempt is when you're flat out act like you're superior, or you're sarcastic, or you're disrespectful, or you're cynical in your response to your partner, or body language, like where you're just like rolling the eyes, right? We all know that's going to piss somebody. Who's that somebody? You're telling them something, and they're a person you really care about, and they start rolling their eyes, and there's like a volcano going on inside you. Who knows what I'm talking about here? Raise your hand if you know that, right? And you know, a lot of us have gotten in the habit of this because we're not disciplined because of what we did in our youth. But these patterns you got by with in your youth, you cannot do in an intimate relationship and expect it to last. In fact, this is the #1 factor that will guarantee divorce within 5 years on average when they look in 15 minutes. If a person shows contempt, so how do you get rid of the criticism? You want to stack the positives. You want to focus on saying I instead of you did this, right? How do you not show contempt? Well, what's the solution to contempt? Put it across for everybody. It's really appreciation. Remember I said instead of expectation, appreciation. If you can show your appreciation, if you can notice your partner's qualities. In fact, how many of you are currently in an intimate relationship? Raise your hand, and if you're on screen, if you're in the chat box, put a thumbs up if you're in an intimate relationship. Okay. How many of you currently are not in an intimate relationship? Thumbs down, not in it? Okay, great. So whether you're in an intimate relationship or not, I want you to think about your last relationship if you're not in one. Did you criticize? Now, a lot of people, no, I did not criticize. I coached, but if you coach someone, whether it was a man or woman, and they're masculine, I can promise you they overreacted to it. And you're like, why are they reacting this way? Because feminine energy is willing to give advice to each other, right? If you come to me and say, Tony, are you wearing another brown shirt today? Is that a brown shirt? If someone's in their masculine, whether it's a man or woman, they're going to go, yeah, and I'm going to wear a brown shirt for the rest of my life. You're not going to tell me what to wear. If you say to a feminine energy, oh, I don't know about that earrings or that lipstick. I don't know if that's right for you. You might not even like the woman or the feminine energy. And you might, oh, that person's a bitch. But the next time you go to put that lipstick on or wear that dress, you go, oh, should I wear this dress? How many know what I'm talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, if you know what I'm talking about, make some noise. So no one wants criticism. No one wants contempt. Those are universal. But also, anyone, man or woman, if you've had a lot of criticism of yourself, which most people do, when I was watching all your videos last 3 or 4 days, it took me back to my own life. Because so many of you are such good human beings, and you're so hard on yourselves. It makes me emotional because I know what it feels like to beat myself up. And it doesn't lead to anything good, not in relationship, not in life, right? Excuse me. That's altering my whole physiology, even think about it. Bring me tears, sneezes, everything, right? But it's true. Excuse me. What happens is, yes, thank you very much. What happens is, if you beat yourself up, and so many of you do that, you're so hard on yourselves because you're expecting perfection. And I just want to remind you, perfection is the lowest standard on earth. How can I say that? Excuse me. Because we all know perfect's impossible, right? And there is no perfect. Once you get there, you'll think something else is perfect, right? So all perfect does is make you constantly say, well, I'm a perfectionist, so that means I'm really going for it. It's like virtue signaling. But the bad effect of it is it makes you beat yourself up because you're never going to be perfect. What we want to be is better than before. What we want to be is more outstanding. What we want to do is maximize who we are and what we're capable of, but it's not perfection. What's the third of the four horsemen that will destroy a relationship? Defensiveness. What does that mean? Making excuses, playing the victim, not owning our mistakes. So it might look like this. Maybe your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, intimate love says, hey, did you call Mary and let her know we had to cancel for tomorrow? And you didn't. The defensive response says, well, no, I haven't had time. You know I don't have time. Why didn't you call her? Like, reverse it and make it about the other person, as opposed to, oh, I screwed up, honey. I'm so sorry. I got so caught up. Shit. Let me handle it. How many follow the difference here? Say I. And by the way, we're only defensive because we're usually beat ourselves up so much, or we feel so bad, or we're afraid we're going to get a negative reaction in the other person. But being defensive creates an even worse one. So the alternative is simple. It's what we've been talking about. Take responsibility. Accept your partner's perspective and say, listen, even if you don't agree with everything, you could say, look, I understand, I appreciate your perspective on that. I didn't see it the same way. I see you see it differently. I respect that. That's different. You don't have to agree with everything with a partner. By the way, what Gottman found is a lot of arguments are about things that you'll never resolve. So what you got to resolve is to agree to disagree on that situation, or come up with something in between that's a balance, because that's what it takes to make a relationship beautiful. And also that's what makes us grow. And then finally, the fourth one, and this one, by the way, is about 85% more male energy does this, according to Gottman's research. So this is not me making it up. It's called stonewalling. So what happens is the feminine often is like, well, what they say, what they want, what are they experiencing? Because the feminine energy, whether it's in a man or a woman, doesn't matter. Gay or straight, doesn't matter. Feminine energy wants to connect. Masculine sometimes wants to cut it off. It's like, score the touchdown and let go to nothingness. Let me do something where I'm not thinking. It's not a man thing, it's a masculine thing. And we all have that. Some more, some less. Whether you're man or woman doesn't matter. But stonewalling is when you just shut down. And so oftentimes the feminine's like wanting to connect, and the masculine energy will just shut down. And it's like withdraw, or look away, or be closed, or actually even turn away. Or the person says something and you barely respond. Yeah, no. You're looking at your phone. This drives people insane. Now, of the four, criticism is the slow killer, contempt is the fast killer, and defensiveness and stonewalling are like the nails in the cross. How many of you can honestly say you've done all four of these at different times in a relationship, ladies and gentlemen? Make some noise here. And how many have felt partners that have been all four in your perception, at least, ladies and gentlemen out there, right? But we can't control our partners. We can shape our partners by behaving differently ourselves. That's the power of 100% responsibility. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean you got to stay in a relationship forever. Some people have different values that are so radically different. You learn from each other, and then this relationship's going to end, and you're going to find a new one. You're going to learn from it. Somehow we think everything's supposed to be perfect when we're still figuring things out. So I think these four I found to be priceless. And again, they're universal. It doesn't matter gender perception, doesn't matter sex, doesn't matter any of these things. These are human experiences. Now, some are more magnified in masculine energy, again, not man, energy, which can be in a gay or straight person, a man or a woman. Some are more magnified with more feminine energy, which again can be gay or straight. It can be any number of things, including men and women. All right? How many get value out of this here? Let me see a show of hands here. Let me give you a universal principle that will help you, that encompasses all this in like a 30,000 foot. The quality of your relationship is the sum total of the communications you've had with your partner. That's a lot of words. Let me clarify. Your relationship is really the result of what you've communicated ongoing. And let me simplify it. Gottman found something really interesting. And this is his number one principle of knowing whether you're going to get a divorce or not. They did this by watching videos. They did this by doing transcripts until they noticed a pattern. Because by the way, they did these studies for a minimum of 20 years on couples. So they saw them in the first 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 7 years. By the way, most relationships end in the first 7 years, and the second time period is 12 years. Now, some have after that, but those are the two biggest periods in which they occur. But here's the thing you got to know. if your communication to your partner is a ratio of positive, negative communications where you have at least 5 times more positive than 1, you'll have a stable relationship. Stable doesn't mean you're totally in love. It just means you guys are not going to get a divorce, right? That's stable. Ideally, it's at least 20 to 1. 20 to 1. I think, without exaggeration, my wife and I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating, it'd probably be 1,000 to 1. The number of times a day I say, I love you, I'm so lucky to have you. We communicate this to each other on a regular basis, in our own heads to ourselves, as well as to each other. And that accumulation over decades develops a level of certainty of love and power and passion that's absolutely amazing. But if your ratio of positive communication to negative communication about your partner, like you're constantly criticizing him or coaching him, and that ratio is 3 to 1 even, or 2 to 1, or lots of relationships, it's 1 positive and 5 negatives, this is going to end up in an ended relationship. Certainly going to end up in divorce, but it's probably going to end up in a relationship that's not only divorce, but where there's a lot of negative emotion. And where does it come from? Criticism. Where does it come from? Defensiveness, stonewalling, right? Rolling your eyes. You know, those pieces are stacked in a relationship. So you want, ideally, 20 to 1. And you got to ask yourself, am I creating a 20 to 1 or more in my relationship? The goal should be 1,000 to 1, in my opinion, right? Can I communicate something in a way that isn't criticism, where it's me, right? So, you know, honey, sometimes when you say this thing, if you see a reaction in me, or a little resistance, I realize it's there. It has nothing to do with you. It's my conditioning. It's like, you know, somebody used to do that in my past, and I'm reacting to that instead of you, and I really want to say I'm sorry. It's not you. I want you to know, if you feel this, it's not you. That'll make your partner open to you. Instead of, why do you always do that? Because you know what happens for most people? Little stuff starts to build up, doesn't it? Little resistances, like, why does he always tell that story? Or why does she always do that? Or why are we always late? Or, man, why can't I make a decision? How many ladies out there cannot stand a man who can't make a decision? Make some noise, ladies. Come on, make some noise. And when he makes one, you tell him he's wrong, won't you, right? Right? So we have all these patterns that we all have inside of ourselves that are just ridiculous, right? That we just don't see because we're not an anthropologist. So your goal, 21 plus. How many think this would be valuable here? I'm curious. Let's do a quick little evaluation just for a second. On a 0 to 10 to a, you know, say plus 10 is you don't criticize at all. Minus 10 is you criticize every day or you coach, right? What would you give yourself in your current relationship or your past relationship, and write it down? So if you're not in one, just think of your last relationship. How much criticism? Plus 10. I'm talking about you, not them. And can you really be honest? What would you say? And then think about that experience of contempt, of just disrespect or getting pissed off or acting superior or being sarcastic or rolling your eyes. Plus 10, you never did it. Minus 10, you did it all the time. Where are you in that pendulum? In your current relationship or in your last one? How about defensiveness? Plus 10, minus 10. What would you say, honestly? I love you guys. You guys are doing so great. This is such a tough subject for people. It's so easy to get hooked. You guys are doing so well. I'm reading the chat. I'm watching. People aren't reacting. It's gorgeous. I really respect you. And then, of course, you know, stonewalling. And both men and women can stonewall. But men, you got to be even more sensitive to it, or a masculine energy has to be more sensitive to it. Stonewalling, pulling apart, not reacting, just shutting down, not giving a response, turning away from your partner, turning to your phone instead of them, not turning towards them and giving them direct contact. Plus 10, minus 10. How many have areas where you clearly could improve? Raise your hand if you can see things you could clearly improve here, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, what would you say, and this is a hard one, to be honest, you'd probably have to see a transcript of your conversations, but at a gut level, if a relationship ended when it was ending, what was the ratio of positive to negative communication? By the way, no communication is negative communication. Stonewalling is negative communication. You don't have to be someone who says something harsh. Just withdrawal is negative communication. It's cutting somebody off. So when a relationship was ending, what would you say your ratio was of positive to negative communication? Was it 5 to 1, 1 to 5? Just out of curiosity. And when your relationship has been most positive, what would you say the number of positive messages versus negative messages would be? Again, that includes criticism. So what we're looking for, my friends, is to notice the gap of where we can be better. Now, how many see places you can absolutely be better? No question, you want to be better. Make some noise if that's true, you ladies and gentlemen. Crank your energy up again. Come on, lift the energy, lift it. Come on, make some noise. Make a sound of excitement like you're excited to use this to make everything better than it's ever been before. What will really help is not make yourself wrong for these things, to realize they're a human experience, but not to use that as an excuse to go, that's the human experience, I did that, but no more. I'm going to be so much better in this area. And when you do something, you catch yourself and go, honey, I think I've just been defensive. I really want you to know, I'm so sorry, that's not my intent with you. Or honey, I realize that probably sounds like criticism, and I just care about you, and I'm probably overprotective or trying to tell you what to do, and I don't want to do that. You know what to do. I trust you in this area. You can correct it on the fly. It's not like, oh, I made this mistake and it's over. The real catch is to be aware of this little checklist inside you, and it's like, okay, I can know these are just things that don't work for humans. They don't work for me. They don't work for other humans. And so I'm going to be sensitized to these, and I'm going to do my best to constantly, if things aren't working, which one am I messing up here? Probably one of these 4. Okay? Is this helpful? Yes or no? If it's helpful, make some noise so I know you got it. Awesome. Now, some people say, what are you talking about? I'm not defensive. Or I'm not criticizing you. You're just, you feel criticized by everything. That's a criticism, right? So what'll help you is to know, you know how if somebody comes to a scene of an accident and they interview like 5 people, and all 5 people give you a different view of what happened? It's the same as the telephone game, because we all see and experience life differently through our nervous system. And if your biochemistry is female or male, biochemistry can be different. Very different, obviously, at different times. So here's a little clip that might just let you understand how people can perceive something completely differently from the exact same experience that they both shared, just because their nervous system's wired differently. Watch.
Today I want to talk about the biggest controversy since this dress. You remember this? All right, now, I personally see a gold and white dress. How many people see a gold and white?
Raise your hand if you see gold and white, so I see.
All right. How many people see a blue and white dress?
Raise your hand if you're seeing blue and white, so I see as well.
Screaming doesn't make more of you. Just an arm up helps. All right, how many of you have heard of this Laurel and Yanny thing? Okay. All right, not the comedy duo. They stopped touring years ago. The old Yanny and Laurel. All right, I'm talking about the viral sound that is tearing the nation apart. Listen carefully to this, and then you're going to tell me if you hear Laurel or Yanny.
Laurel. 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 Laurel.
Okay,
right, which one it is that you hear?
Laurel?
Raise your hand.
How many
right,
people
which one
hear
you do?
Yanny? Again, yelling does not make more of you. You still are not as many people as the correct people, which are Laurel. It is Laurel. It's Laurel. Now, Laurel. It's so easy. It's Laurel. So more of you hear Laurel. The people who hear Yanny, I'm going to have to ask you to leave because It's crazy, though, isn't it? I mean, we can hear the exact same thing and then hear something completely different. How many of you have husbands and you tell them to take the trash out and put the dishes away and they hear, have a beer and take a nap? Totally same thing, and yet they hear it. So this morning... This morning I heard something that blew my mind even more. Okay, I'm going to play a clip. Listen carefully to this. All right, now I'm going to play a different clip.
The juice of lemons makes fine punch.
Now I'm going to play the first clip you heard. It's like a horror movie, isn't it? Clearly you could hear the juice of lemons, right? Makes fine punch. At first you just hear static, but then the brain knows what to listen for, and then you hear it. Apparently it comes down to pitch and the power of suggestion, and I think that's a good lesson to remember because, you know, there are times that we're going to disagree, and it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong, and what makes you better is really listening to somebody else as long as they hear Laurel.
Let's give it up for Ellen. Whoa, yes. How many of you heard Laurel the correct sound, just out of curiosity? Isn't that crazy, though? By the way, that last example is maybe even the best because you hear static, but when you have a pre-frame, meaning you hear something first, then that's what you hear in the scramble. Your past relationships is taking your new relationship and often seeing it through that filter or hearing it through that filter. So you find what you're looking for. Just like looking for brown, you'll see beige and call it brown. So it's really important to take that 100% responsibility. So now let's make this fun and show you how to end all arguments. Who'd like to not have to argue anymore for the rest of your life here, ladies and gentlemen? Now, not because you bullshit and lie or just accept what someone says when you disagree. That's not ending all arguments. That'll create long-term arguments, right? By the way, some people say, I have 1,001 positive and negative, but they're just a pleaser. They don't really believe what they're saying. They're just trying to please their partner. They're not being authentic. You know, when it's 20 to 1, 100 to 1, 1,001 authentic, it works. But when it's not authentic, it doesn't. So, you know, I'm always looking for people, you know, my platinum partners, we do these trips together every year all over the world. And I'm always like, we do a program on relationship. We do these, you know, 5.5 days on this thing. We're doing it again this year. And I'm looking for other people to bring perspective. So it's not just Sage and myself. And I look for people that are also living it. Because the worst part is usually a relationship expert and they got, you know, no relationship or they just got divorced for the second time. And so there's honestly very few people in this category that live what they talk about. And again, whether it's, you know, masculine, feminine, man or woman, or gay or lesbian, doesn't matter. I'm looking for anybody who can make any relationship work. And a few years ago, I met Dr. Julie Colwell, and she did this relationship skills workbook. And I read the book, and I thought, this is amazing. I met Julie, and she and her partner live in Colorado, and she developed this simple technique. Again, what I love is, remember I told you the other day, you know, that complexity is the enemy of execution. One of her techniques is so freaking simple. And once you understand it, you can understand it in a few minutes. I'm going to show it to you. And then I'm going to show you an example with a couple where I used it. You can wipe out any argument. Now, how are you going to do that? Let's flip to what we're going to talk about here. You can only argue if you communicate something that's arguable. What does that mean, Tony? Well, here's the mistake that most of us make. If I say to you, I'm feeling pissed off inside because you, my feeling pissed off inside is inarguable. That's my feeling. But you created it? That's arguable. You're going to say, I didn't create it. I'm saying you created it. And there's going to be an argument. How many follow that simple distinction between the two here? Right? So if all you communicate is what you're really feeling, the sensations and the emotions, and what you want. Most people in an argument they always tell you what they don't want. They don't tell you what they do want. And after a while, there's so much upset, no one even knows what wants are. People just want to get away from it. So this little technique she calls SEW, S-E-W, SEW, and it has 3 parts. It is so simple, guys, and it is so effective. So let's say you're feeling upset. You're feeling sad. You're feeling frustrated. You're feeling angry. You're feeling overwhelmed. You're feeling stressed. You're feeling anything. instead of going into I'm feeling like you this, you start out by saying, honey, I'm feeling this, and you describe the sensations and where they are in your body. That makes you come into this moment and out of the story you've made up. Raise your hand if you understand how you can get caught up in the story. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. You're walking along in New York City and you step off a curb and an ambulance comes by without the ambulance sign going on full tilt and it almost hits you, but it doesn't hit you. Okay, that was the experience. Then there's the story of how the ambulance almost killed you, right? And all the things that we generalize, distort, and delete. How many understand the difference what I'm talking about here? You're in your car, you're driving to work, and there was a flat tire. That's the fact. That was the flat tire. Then there's the story of the flat tire and what it made you feel and do, and you were late and all that bullshit. So we don't go through the story. We go right back to this moment, which is real, something we can do something about. So you say, honey, I'm feeling this tightness in my stomach. I'm feeling this tightness in my throat. I'm not breathing fully. I'm really sorry because what I'm feeling is, and then you're going to say what the emotion is. And let me help you. We have all kinds of words that aren't emotions anymore. I'm feeling out of integrity. That's a concept in your head. Different people have different models. Julie's models, there's 5 emotions, and I think it's a very useful model. By the way, models, masculine, feminine, the things I've just shown you about Gottman, these models, no model is the same as life. If you make a map, it's not the same as the territory, right? But a map is very useful because a map can get you from where you are to where you want to be. It's not that it's perfect or it's completely accurate. It's useful. This is really useful. So think of there's 5 core emotions. All other emotions are some version of it. Sad, mad, which is angry, frustrated, pissed off, right? Scared, fearful, worried, right? Glad, which is happy, loving, and excited. Those are the core emotions. So the way you do so is you say, honey, listen, I just want to share with you right now, I'm feeling these sensations, and it makes you get in your body in this moment instead of in your head in the story. And then you say the emotion, but you don't say all these emotions. Put them back up there. Let's keep them in front of people so they see them regularly here. So I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling a little mad, or I'm feeling a little scared, glad or excited. Notice I didn't say you're making me sad or mad or scared. I didn't say that. I said I'm just feeling this. And then the W is, what do you want? And I don't want to feel this way, honey. I really want us to be closer. And when you do this technique again and again and make it your habit, notice there's nothing there you could argue with because all you're describing is your own sensations, which no one else knows but you, your own emotions, and you're not making up stories about them, just the 5 core ones. And then we're getting to what you really want, which will cut through all the BS really quick. Now, this seems so simplistic, I'm sure. You think, well, could this really work? So I'm going to show you, I did a program with our Platinum partners last year, and I introduced this little technique at one point, and I asked for a couple that was having a challenge. And this couple had a problem that had been going on for 12 years, and on day 3, I think, or 2 of the relationship program, one of them was deciding to leave. They had this heated discussion the night before. Someone shared something, and they not shared it before, and for 12 years it's been hanging in their relationship, and it's over. The one's leaving. I'm going home, and one of the trainers told me one was so upset and angry, and the other one is so hurt. They're saying this is the end. And I said, get them in the room. And I thought, okay, let's do something so simple everyone can get that even in one of these situations you can do it. And you can see we got them in a good state first, because if you want to, by the way, it would be nice to change your state before you share your sensations and emotions, because otherwise, if you're really in an angry state, you might go into your angry story. So you want to change your state and come to your partner, ideally in a state where there's some neutrality, but maybe not. So let me just watch this. Just only a few minutes, and I'd like you to take notes of what you notice, what works, because I want you to leave today going, holy shit, I don't have to have another argument. I probably will get in one, but I can get out of it by going, you know what, I'm sorry. I'm making you wrong. I'm making you responsible. Let me just tell you, this is what my sensations are. This is what I'm feeling. Here's what I want. Watch. Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen. No, it's Kid, for God's sakes. Give her a hand. It's Kid. What did you discover as a pattern?
I think one big primary one for me was deletion. And we had a big moment last night because at some point last night, someone talked about leaning into faith over fear. And there was something in our relationship I had not admitted for the 12 years we've been married. And I shared it with him. And when we woke up this morning, things were off for understandable reasons. And we both said, should we leave? And we didn't.
Give me a hand for that. That's beautiful by itself, right?
And honestly, what I shared is I was deleting it from my memory. Like when he would ask me about it, he kind of knew about it. And I would just say like, no, that never happened. It's not part of it. And so I was fully incorrectly rewriting my past. And I think it put me in the second thing, it put me into a state of the helplessness.
Yeah.
Because I was living with something that was in the past more than like 12 years ago. And I was living the pain all the time, and I hadn't addressed it. And we were never going to move on in our relationship until we did. And that was
because even if you try to move on, some part of you had not moved on, right? And he could feel that because he loves you.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't know the content, he can still feel it. And so could you, more importantly, or equally importantly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So where is it now?
Well, you told me we're going to tonight do the so process, and I'm probably a little scared about doing that.
Well, then let's do it now. So let's do it. So let's see how this process works. And I want to do it because it'd be helpful for them, but would it be helpful for you too? Yeah. So let's just do it real quick. You'll see how easy it is and you don't have to have anxiety about it. So first of all, it's only 3 steps. Second of all, it's called so. So you'll remember, in essence, what it is. S is you're going to describe something that only is inarguable. What's it make inarguable? It's what you're experiencing, not what thoughts you're having. What's arguable is when you tell me, you made me feel, A, you're blaming me, B, I don't make you feel anything, and C, often you say a feeling that's not even a feeling. It's a concept, which is why it doesn't get solved and why it becomes argued. So the first step is, if we're going to communicate, A, we want to be in a good what? Ideally a great state, so it'd be good to just change in advance. Like she gave you hugging to start with. Should we start with hugging?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go for it. I like that little giggle. That's awesome. So that was quite beautiful. Did you enjoy that?
It was a great hug.
It was a great hug. Did you see how she was looking in your eyes at the end?
Yep.
Looking up at you like that? What was she communicating?
Safe, that she's safe.
Yeah. What else was she communicating?
That she loves me.
Yes. She was also saying thank you if you looked in her eyes. There was a big thank you, wasn't there?
Definitely.
Yeah. It was beautiful. From this place, you can always do anything. You can certainly sew. And so we want to say things that are not arguable. And if we catch ourselves doing something arguable, we can just go, hey, you know what? I'm new at this. And I think I just said something arguable. Or your partner may assist you by saying, I don't know, honey, is that arguable? I don't know. What do you think? I've had my own history. So I want you to describe to him the sensations you're having when you start to have this thought. What's the emotions? And what do you want? S-E-W, sensations, but you got to make sure it's sensations. Stabbing is not a sensation. That's something being done to you. There's a tension, or there's a pressure, or there's a weight, or there's a lightness. There's a texture. It's smooth or rough. Think in terms of kinesthetic submodalities, okay? Heavy, light, those types of things, because that is real. By starting with your own sensations, you will start to end the hypnosis of the words you were using. So remember I said to you, the words you attach to your experience become your experience? Well, you have certain words you use a lot, so you keep feeling the same feelings, and you think it's your partner, and it's your actual words. that then create real emotions. But it's the words creating them. And it's because you're starting with a small selection of words when you're upset instead of a broader one. So tell him, what are the sensations you're feeling when you are going to talk about this? Is that what you want to deal with, this thing you were talking about? What are the sensations?
Or how I feel now. How I feel right now, having talked about it, is I feel very shaky all over. That would be the sensation.
Where are you shaky? And this is what you can do as the partner. It's not an interrogation, it's sincere interest. Honey, where are you feeling shakiness? I'm not questioning, I just want to know. I want to fully feel or understand what you're experiencing. Ladies, how many would appreciate that if somebody gave you that feedback? By the way, that's not what most men want to do, because we want to just solve it. The way you're going to solve it is feeling her and bringing presence to her, and then she will solve it. Not by you telling her. Now, if she asks you what to do, that's different, but I wouldn't give it to start with, any more than you want to be coached. Okay, so what are the sensations? You're shaking, you take over. I'm just going to listen.
Where are you shaking?
Like my whole body feels shaky, and then my heart just feels a little bit in pain, a little bit heavy and nervous. And I think the emotion that I have is feeling really scared about how you'll feel after what I shared.
Is there any other feeling besides scared?
Sad.
Yeah, that's good. We want to know them all. Does that make sense? Okay, so you're feeling scared, and what else?
And sad.
Anything else?
And mad.
Oh, and mad. Oh, good. Oh, good. Bonus round. We got all three.
Those are the three.
Well,
mad at myself.
That's a really good question. Well, is there any part of you feeling glad that you talked about?
Yes, actually, yes.
Oh.
A part of me is feeling glad that that feels like a weight lifted off to my chest, a big weight off my chest that we discussed it.
Wow. Is there any part of you that feels excited or more alive?
Actually, yes. I guess there is.
Oh, isn't this becoming a more encouraging conversation now, Will?
It's getting better and better.
If I told you I was ready right this minute, do you think that it would turn you on? I just feel like you need to know. If I told you.
Now, by the way, gentlemen don't always understand this because most men don't really go deep into their feelings in terms of discussions. But women very often don't know what they're feeling until you ask them. Ladies, raise your hand if it's true. I couldn't understand this in the beginning. I was like, ask my wife, what are you feeling? Well, I don't know what I'm feeling. Well, who does if you don't? That was not the right response. Right? Not a good one. I learned. So what's beautiful now, what's already happened, Will? Tell me what's happened inside of you, and tell me what's happened inside of her. Start with her. What's happened inside of her?
I think she's letting go.
What gives you that sense? I think you're right, but what gives you that sense? I'm curious.
Well, I can see it in just her physiology.
Yeah.
And we talked about it a little bit before, but even more now.
Even more. It's great to see the progress.
I'm avoidance, so...
You mean you were?
I was.
You're not right now. Look what you're doing, Will.
Yeah,
This is the opposite of avoidance. So be careful about how you label yourself. That's what I was trying to do with these pattern reps. The most difficult pattern to break is when you make it your identity. That's why I didn't want you to go back, well, my childhood is, even though that may have been an initial source, you can make different choices. And people do. People go in environments where they're not loved, not hugged, and they're extremely secure. They just decided God gives them that security, or the universe does. So when we look for the source, we often lock ourselves in that that's who we are. So I'm very careful about whatever I attach the words I am to. Because whatever you attach the words I am to with enough repetition and enough emotion, you will be, even if it's not true. So it's really useful to know that I have been that, but I try in my language to break the pattern as well, because otherwise words are hypnotic. You saw it on stage. That's all it was words. Words are very hypnotic. Certain words are extremely hypnotic based on your history. Certain words you've used so much, they just instantly put you in a trance. Most people in a relationship go into a trance. What is a trance? You're inside, not outside. So you're not experiencing this, you're experiencing your past. And you're attaching it to this. So then you think this is that. This is not that, that is not this. And you don't need a pink Cadillac. I don't know why I said that, but it's helpful. Continue.
Yeah, and I mean, so I was sitting, waiting in line out here for the doors to open, and she had a break from work, so she texted me, should I come down and we can talk about the plan to leave? And I said, sure. And then when I was thinking, or really not thinking, feeling, I thought to myself, I guess this part was thinking, I'm just going to do the opposite of what I would usually do in this case. And so what I would usually do...
That I said to you guys earlier, the fact that you got that so quick, I only said it once. That's great. Gentlemen, this is the secret to your success with your woman. Do the opposite of what you want to do when things are crazy. I promise you it'll be better than the shit you used to do. Continue.
So when she came down...
What would you have normally done?
I don't know what I said. Let's, pack up the car and let's get out of here.
And you did what instead?
I said that must have been very difficult for you last night to...
Oh, I want to hug you. Come here. Come here. Brother, awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. That's gorgeous. That was your soul speaking, not your head. I love you. Give it up for him. What pattern did he just break? What always makes you suffer? Focusing on yourself. What did he do instead? He entered her world. How did that make you feel?
Really great. And then he gave me a hug.
Yes. What besides great, though? Dig in a little bit. What did it really feel? You were coming down thinking what?
That we were going to fight and leave.
And what happened instead?
Instead, he acknowledged how he thought I must have felt in that moment and showed me that he was going to try to make me feel safe and secure going through it. That's how I felt.
Wow. How special was that?
It was really special, and then I didn't do a good job.
That's okay. What'd you do, test him right after you delivered good stuff?
I don't remember. You have the
What did
perfect
you do?
memory.
It was some kind of test. It was like you should really try to talk to Tony about how you get stuck in the past stories.
That's a great thing to do. Talk to Tony. That's what you say when someone's considering leaving. That's a great strategy. Now, why did she do that, gentlemen? That was a what? It was a what? Is it the last one? No, there'll be many more. That's what you have to look forward to the rest of your life. Perhaps you could say, it's the way in which she proves to herself how much I already love her. And I'm willing to play that game because I do love her. That's the game of my life. Please continue. This is quite a narrative.
It's been a busy day.
By the way, these two human beings are demonstrating what all of us want to do for the rest of our lives. Do you get it? This is an issue that is highly charged. And instead of going in their own pity pots, which they both are doing at times, but they chose to be awake to their own responsibility and out of that, their own opportunity to make it even better. That when this bone heals, if you break a bone, this is a fact, when it heals, it becomes the strongest bone in the body. People that never broke a bone live in fear. If you have a child and you protect them, they never broke a bone, as adults, they're afraid to break a bone. But if you broke a ton of bones and you're still fine, you don't fear breaking bones, and so you have a great life. Some of us have overprotected our children. You think they should never see an argument, they should never be that. Then they're going to walk into a world that's imaginary and isn't true, and they're going to be massively disappointed when they are not as perfect as you tell them they are all the time, and when everyone doesn't meet their needs like you did. This is beautiful. Please continue.
Where should we go next? Do you want to talk?
Sure. Well, then...
What's the third question? She told you what her sensations were. She told you what she was feeling. By the way, she was feeling some good things too. That's good for you to take in because guys are so afraid that you're going to be unhappy because they really want you to be happy, not because they're weak, because their core is to make you happy. Now, some of you don't want to be happy, but the person you hurt when you do that is yourself. And she's not doing that. She was openly, sincerely expressing And she didn't know till he asked. So it's good to ask, are there some other emotions in there too? Because then she became aware of them, which will make this process easier when it has some glad and excited in it, and be even sexual, not just sad, mad, and scared. Now we got more to play with. Isn't that nice? Now she could have said, no, those are the only things I'm feeling, and I'm also, that's making me feel what to say, okay, I understand, but I want to know your core emotions, thank you. What do you want, honey? What do you want? What do you want? What do you not want? That's the W and so. So discipline, by the way, is not to go off and make a bunch of emotions that aren't emotions, that you call emotions, that are concepts, because that'll make this arguable. And it'll also be about blaming, which will make this go nowhere. And he made it even easier by way of saying, that must have been hard for you. It means he got out of himself, which makes her feel incredibly safe, and then she'll test him. What do you want?
So what do you want, Kit?
I want to love you and be with you for the rest of my life, and I know that. And we were meant to be together.
Oh, yes. So please so. You.
Yeah,
What
she's got questions to ask, right?
Well, you've got sensations, you've got emotions, you've got things you want.
What were the sensations you were feeling?
I felt a knot in the pit of my stomach.
Any other sensations?
Pain in my heart.
Was that tension? Was that heaviness? See, when you say pain in your heart, you're going to start making up a metaphor. Do your best to be as specific as possible. And you're not correcting him. You just say, well, honey, what is that? Is that like a heaviness? Is that a tension? Is that a...
Honey, what is that? Is that a heaviness?
It was like a very low, stressed heartbeat.
By the way, is it nice to know that's what he actually experienced instead of making shit up in your head? And he can do that authentically. There's nothing arguable about that. And he's not making her wrong. It's just what he was experiencing.
And what emotions were you feeling when you felt those sensations?
Sad and angry.
Were you scared at all?
No.
Are you sure?
Maybe.
Thank you for that honest answer. We hit a trifecta once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing. Sad, mad, and scared. Wait. Why did we celebrate the trifecta? Because that means it's a bigger thing that when we solve it, we're going to grow even more. It was only one. It's a piddly little thing. Who wants a piddly thing when you can rip open some big shit and get rid of it? Is there another question about emotion?
Were you feeling any other emotions?
I guess I was glad to hear the truth.
Good for him to acknowledge that and for her to know that, because one of the things she's beating herself up about is the question of should I have told him or not. Things were going so well and I almost ended my relationship with telling him. But her authenticity and her courage by him finding his strength in between it all actually will make this deeper and more, because she won't be withholding and he won't be wondering. So there's some gladness in there. By the way, when he acknowledged that, he didn't know that 100% till she'd asked it either, so it's not just women.
Mm-hmm. Any other emotions?
No.
We'll change that later.
There you go. By the way, why not break up your sewing with some nice music and laughter? Why not in the middle of it say, you're going to feel different later? How cool is that? What a great example. Give me a hand for this example. We're not done. We're almost there. What's the last question?
What do you want?
And by the way, notice this can feel like a scary moment, but it really isn't, because if she knows what he wants and it's authentic, that's a lot better than making shit up in your head. And she might ask him, what do you not want? And if you have the courage to do that, knowing that underneath it all you love each other and you're committed to each other, that makes it a whole lot easier. And if he pauses, ladies, don't be scared by the pause. He's trying to figure it out in his head. Yes, he knows in his heart, but his head's still a little involved. How could it not be? Because it was a shock, it was a surprise. So people tend to go to their head with that as a way to protect themselves. Everybody does. And most men do not think in terms of their emotions unless they've trained themselves to do it. So it's not him being evasive, but that pause, for a lot of women, they feel crushed in that moment. And then you're feeling crushed, your energy will drop. As your energy drops, you'll get a different signal, and then he may respond in a way that you don't like. But you have to be willing to hear whatever he says and still trust we're going to get through this, because I'd rather know what he wants and doesn't want than not know and make it up in my head. Is that true for you?
Definitely.
Okay, go ahead and ask him.
What do you want?
I want to be a husband that provides for you the safety and security that you can have total open communication with me.
Wow, what a beautiful thing to want. What else do you want?
I want to give her the attention that she deserves.
You take over. I'm not running this process.
What else do you want? What do you want from me?
Nice question. Courageous question. And she did it with a beautiful smile. Did you see the delivery? Did you hear the tone of voice? It's not just the words, my friends. It was beautiful. Even if he's got inner conflicts, also he's wanting to articulate, he's trying to find it. By the way, he wants to do the perfect thing. That's the only thing slowing down the communication, but there's nothing wrong with slower communication.
I want you to feel free.
Me too.
Isn't that a beautiful, honest response? That's gorgeous. Is there anything else you want or don't want? You want to tell me?
Yeah, I want her to be able to disentangle.
Don't tell me. I'm not involved in this shit.
I want you to be able to disentangle yourself from old stories, and I want the same from me.
I want the same. And I want to rewrite our narrative, like our meeting narrative.
Our love story.
Our love story.
How many found this beautiful? How hard was it? It's not hard when you put yourself in the right, and when you're starting from the outcome, which is, we're going to do this so that we can just be closer. We're going to deal with whatever life brings us. Life will bring us other things too, some of which we will be in control of, some of which we won't. Some have nothing to do with each other, some will. But what a great thing to go on the journey together called life, with love as its base. So you guys choosing to hang out together, or are you leaving?
Yeah, we're leaving right after this.
Good. Get a room. Give it up for him, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, give it up for him. Give it up for Kit and Will, everybody. Give it up for Kit and Will. Stand up. Stand up, shake your body out. Give it up for Kit and Will. They're teachings for us all. Stand up. Come on, shake your body out. Move your body like you're a little crazy and you're doing it. Excited, fun, playful. Come on, wake it up. There you go. Make the sound of being joyous and excited in your relationship. Go. Whoa! Yes! Get yourself a playful high five or fist bump virtually or in person. Go for it. And when you sit back down, you know the drill. Quick sip of water so you stay hydrated. Quick sip of water. And then wake up your body in the chair, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it going. So how many of you got a lot out of that? That made it really clear to you how we can do this. And you can see this couple, the most important thing, by the way, I hope you noticed, was putting them in a better state before we began the sew process. Did you see that? Like getting them to have a hug, getting them to connect, getting them to feel safe. Because if you start to try to do this and both people are on edge, it'll have an edge. It could still work, but it makes it harder. So that's why state is always the number one thing to improve anything. You want a breakthrough in your relationship, change your state, change your story. And this is a way of changing the story but not blaming anybody. And this is the strategy that'll work in the right state. And it's so simple. How many like to do this? How many like to go practice this someplace with somebody you care about, right? Awesome. So now I thought you should have another perspective because I come in a certain package. And so you've seen some of their examples, but I want to share with you the person who's given me the greatest joy in my entire lifetime. I had a beautiful life, but I had a magnificent life when this woman walked into it. I thought I was really happy. I wasn't even close to as happy as I could be. This soul is the most important soul on the planet to me, and I have the privilege of loving this woman for this is our 24th year together. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my wife, Sage Robbins. So, my dear.
Hi, honey.
Love you,
Beautiful introduction.
So,
hello, everyone. It's been a gift to be with you this week and just watch this collective oneness of everybody having that hunger and desire to rise above and to connect and to understand. It's been gorgeous to watch each and every one of you every day. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Tone.
Well, truthfully, everything that I know about relationship that I'm going to help other people with is because of us and specifically because of you and my hunger to be better. So I'm constantly learning. She'll tell you in the beginning, I had a little tape recorder running around and we'd have an argument and I'd be like, I want to know why. What did you believe there? And then she goes, well, this is how feminine energy perceives something, sometimes different than masculine. But I got masculine too, she said. So sometimes I see it this way. And I'd be like taking notes because I thought there's nothing more important to study for because to me, love is everything. I wanted not just love, but love and passion. So, honey, I'll interview you for starters if we could. And we'll just play off of it. What would you say is the number one thing that destroys a relationship? Because everybody knows when you're in a great state, it's easy to have a relationship. What breaks it down? What in your mind destroys it?
Yes. Well, number one, I had an amazing example. My parents are watching right now in Canada. Hi, Mom and Daddy.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
There's so few examples of enduring love. And my parents had it all. When I say it all, there was his, hers, and ours, and as well, they fostered children. So our home was really dynamic. There was addiction. There was death of parents. Just this human experience. I think that's where it is so gorgeous and where we all meet. And I think, at times innocently, what destroys love is just you know, maybe giving up too soon, expecting it to look different or your partner to be different other than what life is offering you. Because a lot of times in the pain of it, there's just such beauty when you're willing to see that through and come through the other side. But a lot of times, you know, when we get together, it's this awe and wonder and, you know, that excitement and the bliss stage. And not that that doesn't continue, but life offers us. It offers us, as it does every single one of us individually, but collectively there's life experiences, more accurately, that challenges us. And my parents were such a remarkable example of persistence and staying with each other. There they are. And also finding the laughter and the beauty and the playfulness. They're really beautiful together in their gestures. You know, till this day, my parents have been together over 50 years. They're still always like holding each other's hand and touching each other. And it's not that they have not had challenges, because we had tremendous challenges, as we all do. You know, you can't be human and not be challenged. And I think sometimes innocently we have all these examples, whether it be in movies or whatever, and it's this, you know, idyllic love. And the ideal love is actually having a safe harbor together and knowing that no matter what's happening on the external world, what challenges we have, whatever's difficult, that with a willingness and love, you know, and kindness, you can rise above and make it through anything. And so I had the privilege to have that example, and it so schooled me. I learned so much. And at a different stage, when Tony and I weren't together, and in a different relationship, I hungered for that because I knew what it could look like, if that makes sense. And even with Tony and I, you know, a lot of people will always be like, gosh, you know, I wish I had what you guys have, and we've been to heaven and hell together. And I think that's the beauty of it. That's the honesty of it. Because once again, there was a knowingness of each other's positive intent, a knowingness no matter what the behavior, because we can all go unconscious. You know, we can all be unkind in a moment. We can all be harsh in a moment. We can all yell in a moment. We can all do everything that we don't want to experience the other to do. We've all been that. I've done it, you know, time and time again. But you start to catch yourself, because that's, I think, the beauty of relationship. I think what destroys a relationship is when we fix on the identity that he is this, or how dare he, or how could he or she, or this is unforgivable. Is it true? You know, divine grace gave us this space to be able to walk this path of love and to share and to grow and to evolve individually and collectively. And my parents did such just a really beautiful example of that. And it was messy at times. It's been messy at times. For those of you who look at us, just know that we've gone through it all. And I think that it's those textures that brings grace, and that brings even a vaster beauty. And I think the innocent part of us as human beings is a lot of times it's, I'm out of here, you know. And we just never know if on the other side of that thought, what is possible.
I think another piece is in any relationship, if your partner feels like something else is more important than they are, whether that be work or whether that be kids or whether it be anything. I mean, I never thought before I met Sage that I could ever think of anything as more important than my mission. But my number one mission is here. And if this works, then I've got the energy for everything else. And the culture has changed radically. If you remember, you know, in the 60s and 70s, movies about children were all about Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist, and children were thought very differently. You can look at literally the themes. And then in the 80s, it became Babies on Board, 3 Men and a Baby, a complete change where everything was about the child. And, you know, we're privileged to have 5 kids and 5 grandkids and our child together, our little daughter together, 21 months. But in your family, maybe you can clarify this, because you had his, hers, and ours, meaning her mom and dad had been married before. They had children from different people. Then they had foster children as well. And with that much demand, it would be easy if the kids are number one. And it doesn't mean their kids aren't unbelievably important. But if they're number one, then the relationship breaks down. That's what's happening in our culture.
Yes.
But your parents made it clear that there was time for their parents no matter what. And
They
then,
did.
Mike, why don't you share a little bit of that?
Well, number one, they reunited. You know, I could never play my mom or my dad against each other. I knew that if I went to my mom, it would be the same answer if it went to my, if I went to my father. Being a parent now, I don't realize how much backdoor conversations you have to get to that, front-faced unity, which is so beautiful. They also, just, I don't know, they had date nights that was their time, and we also had time as a family. Every Friday night we'd go to the mall, we'd go for dinner. These simple, ordinary, meaningful moments that we forget the impact of what it does, not only in a family, but in our relationship. It's not the grand, big, even though we've had, really privileged experiences of life. When I ponder our love, when I ponder my mom and dad, it was silly things. It was water fights in the kitchen and, just random things, random, goofy, beautiful moments that life offers us to enjoy. Because why else are we together if, to enjoy and to share this love and this life? By the way, it doesn't mean that it's perfect. That doesn't mean that it's idyllic. That doesn't mean that it's harmonious every moment. It means that there's this space that in the beauty of it and the mess of it, it's all possible. And I think, my parents knew each other's soul. I mean, they knew each other's heart. They knew each other's intent. We know each other's heart and intent. And I think that that's so crucial, because when life is coming at you, or there's behavior that you don't expect or you don't want, or, something happens that you think, oh my gosh, I can't. If you know this individual's nature, the purity of what you fell in love with, I think, there's a remembrance in that. My parents did such a beautiful job of that.
So true. And you think about it, in a relationship, if you don't feel like this person's the most important thing to you, something else is, there's always a little bit of a hole. When you're the most important person, you let them know that most important thing in their life over and over again, it starts to sink in, and it creates a place where people have that certainty that allows them to open, allows them to feel safe, allows them to love at a whole different level. And your mommy and daddy did that so well. They also did it so well from the point of they also have passion. I mean, they're in their 70s, and they still... And your mother's going to kill your father, basically.
Truly.
He's going to die having sex, probably.
I'm still not over it. Oh, my freaking mother.
Her mother is
She's
a total
awesome.
sex maniac. He's got a good problem, right? But they have love and passion. They're playful. That's part of what makes it happen, is that sense of playfulness. It's not just all serious and heavy. It's like breaking your patterns. When I first met Sage, I said, I'm a serious mofo, man. I'm here to change the earth. And I said, I want to laugh more. I almost wish I hadn't said that shit, because she's made me laugh so much at different times. But your ability to break your partner's pattern. But they also had time for them. I want to make it clear that the children didn't feel, you might think, oh, then my kids won't feel loved. No, the children felt loved because mom and dad had their date night with you guys. Bedtime was a certain time. You didn't get out of bed. You didn't knock on the door unless you were bleeding. They know. And they knew, oh, mom's going to wash dad's hair. I think later in life they figured out what that meant. Right? But they had their private time, and they made that important. And ironically, they didn't feel number two. They felt safe because they saw a relationship where two people are totally committed to each other and loving each other, as opposed to they're loving me every moment. Plus, when you're loving your child every moment, all the time, giving them exactly what they want, then they're not prepared for a relationship, because they think that's what life is, that my partner's every moment going to do everything I think I want. And then they get mad when they're not getting it. There's a whole generation of kids that are now adults that have a hard time in a relationship. They think I should be able to swipe right or left and just get what I want. Yes. They've been trained in their nervous system. It's not their fault, but it's not real. So one thing I hope you'll all gather is, I love our children. I love them all. And I love our daughter unbelievably. But this is still number one. I love my mission. This is still number one. And then you have to get to that place inside yourself where you're willing to commit to that. Some people are afraid to commit to that. But if you don't commit to that in your relationship, that'll be felt. It's such an important role. How about for people? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, and one other thing, just being our little lady is 20 months. And something that just so struck me is the recognition that, I believe we're born as love, recognizing and just experiencing this our daughter's nature is just so lovely. And she witnesses love, yes. We see love. demonstrated all the time. And, you know, going with little friends on her little play dates and so forth, you know, she wants to hug or, you know, blow kisses or hold their hand. And it really strikes me how many children will push her away or say no. Like
most of them.
I mean, probably, maybe out of 20, maybe there's one or two that would. And so, you know, I had an example of my parents loving. That doesn't mean that they weren't, you know, that they were perfect. They were human. But, you know, love is demonstrated in what is the story here that, you know, sharing or offering, never mind to your beloved, but also to your children. They watch, they model, they perceive. They're more intelligent than we recognize. We believe stepping into the other room to handle it, that they don't feel. We all feel. We're energetic beings, and they can feel and sense that. And, you know, there's so much... you go on social media, you turn on the news, there's so much innocent demonization and people just, you know, pulling each other down or blaming each other. If you joined this event, I trust that there's a hunger in you for more, and that more is more love. You know, we're speaking of relationship, but it's love. I mean, across the board, we never know how much, never mind being an example to our children, but also, you know, if you're going to the store, that your smile, that your warmth, the currency of love makes such a difference. You know, the beauty of all of you when somebody has shared and the amount of love that you've extended here. This is our nature to actually be this supportive. This is our nature to want to extend and to support and to be kind and to celebrate and to magnify the gift that we are and the gift that others are. And somehow, culturally, that can innocently get lost in translation. So,
you know, if your love is really beautiful, hopefully it inspires others. You know, I remember early on we were down in Miami, and I made 3 or 4 years into our relationship, and we're outside this place, Johnny Rockets on Ocean Boulevard or whatever it is there. And there's zillions of people coming by. And there's a group of kids that I think they'd done some school project or something. And they were at 10, 11, 12 years old. And they had all these balloons. And they saw us there. And we weren't paying attention. We were just in love. And 2 of them came up to us. And then 4 or 5 or 6 of them said, "You guys seem so happy, so in love. We think you should have this." And they gave us all their balloons. And I just thought it was so touching because it's a reflection that it's like I remember one time in my life somebody said, "Are you happy?" I go, "Am I happy? Of course I'm happy. When are you going to tell your face about it?" You know, it's like there's a difference between happy and cheerful, by the way. Happy can be inside. Cheerful is so much energy inside it comes out. But when your love expresses that much, it can inspire others, and it certainly affects your kids. And so if you start with nurturing here, it's kind of like, you know, if you get on an airplane, what's the first thing you tell you? If we get into trouble and there's no oxygen, that's a pretty big stressful situation. What's going to happen? This oxygen mask's going to come down, and what do they tell you? Put it on your kid first, right? Is that what they tell you? What do they tell you? Put it on yourself first. You go, "Oh, that's horrible. My kid's going to..." No, because if you don't have it on yourself, you can't help your kid. And you got to do that with your relationship first. Let's talk about, you know, I've seen some questions here. Some people saying, well, what if you're single, right? So when, you know, you may already be in a relationship and you've just ended a relationship trying to figure out what to do. I remember, you know, I ended one of my relationships, long-term relationship, because for years I was trying to please. I was trying to be that person. I can remember being on stage. It was a big deal in those days for like, I think it was 14,000 people at the Continental Center in New York. And I did this event, and it was people are, you know, you pour all your love into people, and people are generous. If you love them, they love you back. And it's this virtuous cycle of energy and love and vitality, and it feels so incredible. And during the break, somebody came up and whispered in my ear, "Hey, guess what? One of my companies gone public that day." And they go, "Your stock is worth $400 million. And I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. And that lasted about 2 minutes, and then I went back to what I was doing, which is what I love most. And then I came home that night, I'll never forget, and it was like, should have been the greatest day of my life, and it was, except I was in a relationship with someone who wanted me to be different. Can you relate to this? In the beginning of a relationship, maybe you met somebody, and maybe they made things happen, took charge, or maybe they were really funny, or maybe they were more quiet, and you love that connection with them. And then as the years go by, you're like, why are they always so loud? Why do they always have to take control? The very thing you used to love, you now get pissed off by. Or why don't they ever communicate? Whereas before you loved, they listened, right? Who knows what I'm talking about here? Who's had this shift happen inside you? Make some noise if you have. That's because in a relationship, first of all, if you are trying to be something for someone else and you're not really growing, or if you see something you like, it's because it's something that's in you that you don't realize is in you. That playfulness or that strength is in you. But if you're with them and you don't connect and grow, you only see it in them, you learn to resent it.
Yeah.
And so I was in a relationship with this person, and it's like all the things that were lovable about me suddenly weren't. And I was such a pleaser at that time. And gentlemen, by the way, not in business, not in sports, but when it came, because I was raised by my mother, I got to please her. And by the way, women hate pleasers. Ladies, if you hate pleasers, make some noise so the men hear you out there. By the way, this confuses men because they go, women say, I want to be pleased. That's different than being a pleaser. Right? It's hard for them to understand the difference. But I went home and I try to adapt and okay, I'll be more quiet. Like the guy you're seeing right now, if you see me on stage, off stage, there's no difference. This is Tony Robbins, who I am. Tone for my woman here, right? She calls me Tone. But the bottom line is the same guy. I'm not having to be one or the other, but I'd have to come home and be something different. And so finally, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, VH1 used to do these stories called Behind the Music. Does anybody remember those things? It was always about like a rock and roll band. Yes, some of you know what I'm talking about. And they grow in the peak of their success. Somebody would, be driving a car 100 miles an hour because they're so exciting, crash or overdose on drugs or whatever. It was always a horrible end. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so unhappy. I just made $400 million. I just did my life's work and I'm unhappy because I'm trying to be something I'm not. And I decided to make a change. So now what do you make the change? I wrote down everything that I really wanted in a relationship, everything. And I wrote pages, what I'd want to share with this person, how I'd like to love, how we play, we believe spiritually. It was pages of it. And then I went and crossed everything out that wasn't really a must. That was just a should. And then I wrote down, okay, that's great, but what kind of person would I have to be to attract and keep that love alive? And that's the more important question. First, you got to know what you want. By the way, you also got to know what you don't want. Sometimes you get what you want, what you don't want. I made a don't want list, and then I shrunk that down to the must. But the most important question is who I got to be as a person. And I read that list every single day after I was going through a divorce. I initiated the divorce. Even though I initiated it, was still like, oh my God, this is so painful. I want to make everybody happy. My kids weren't happy at some stage, obviously. It was like, But I read it, gave me sanity, and then I'd read it once a week. And we met, and we were friends for 6 months. I was dating other people. It was wild. And one day I was like looking at my list. It was in those days you used to carry like a hard binder instead of your phone. And I was like, wait a second. I pulled out the list and she was everything on the list I wanted and nothing I didn't want. And I realized I'd become the kind of person that would keep that. And would you share them with you? You also, without meeting me, we did something similar, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, for those of you who are single, the process that Tone just shared, we both did that, getting clear independently. And then, a lot of times when we're waiting for that one, we're so focused on getting that one that we forget to love here now, Yes. And whether it be on social media, whether it be your neighbor, whether it be your mama, your daddy on a phone call, something so simple, love, share, because it is our nature to do so. It feels unnatural not to. That's the resistance of the discord when we're, holding back that. So, if you're wanting to find love, the practice of course, making your list and being clear that you are that, but recognizing you are that love. And so we experience the love that we offer. And so being an extension of that, it's the balm that collectively this world so needs right now. And how beautiful. You get to be your most beautiful self. You get to share who you are rather than waiting for that one, because you never know what life experience is going to offer us. And you never know as well. He or she might look so different than you expect.
That's true.
They might be right in front of you. And, I don't know. I think it's a beautiful thing to just remember that it makes our experience of life, our day, so much more beautiful when we get to be thoughtful and connected and playful. But sometimes in our mind's eye, if it's like, oh my gosh, I want this, because ladies, a lot of times if we're looking for love, it becomes this like, oh yeah, but. Yes, but I don't have that. And we miss all the abundance that, God has blessed us with. So I think, opening our eyes and our hearts is a part of the gift of why we all came here this week.
Very much so, honey. The other thing I want to mention is learning how to play. You know, how to, like, we almost never have a fight anymore. In the beginning we did, because you clash up. In the beginning there's nothing. It's like chemistry. There's no fighting. Then you go through the stage where little things start to get resistance in you, and if you don't deal with them, they could become resentment or rejection, and it becomes challenging. And we got through those pieces. Now it's almost never, but we still get energy out. And we do it playfully. We tease each other. I can be sitting here, like, watching something, reading something, being something, also something hits me, and like, hits again. And she's throwing almonds at me because she wants my attention. Right? So instead of saying, you know, being pissed off, I'm not giving her attention, she does it in a playful way. And I come and grab her and we tease, and that makes it fun, right? Or, you know, get over here, you know? We have these little rituals that you can create. Like, you know, you come home and it's like, where are you, honey? And you go running for each other like in a movie and so forth, and hug each other. These little things all stack. And they're all about breaking the pattern when you get too serious, too messed up, too frustrated. I mean, they're, you know, in my life, my family, it was very volatile. Things were communicated with intensity. They were physically. I swear I wouldn't do that, but verbally I did. And she was in a family where it was kept quiet. And it was like, it didn't make much sense. But when I started getting upset, what really changed is she'd start to laugh. In the beginning, it would piss me off like crazy.
Well, because I'd never seen anything like it. I felt like I was watching a cartoon or something. And so I literally could not keep a straight face. And that only made him more upset.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Then it just became silly. Like, if you saw us off camera just before here, right? We're watching the video, and I got something here. I don't know what it is. Went in one of my nostrils. I'm still feeling it. And I'm sneezing and sneezing. I've never experienced anything like it, right? So my wife said, let me help you. Let me spray. She has this stuff called Nixol. She thinks everybody needs to have this Nixol.
It is wonderful.
It's this little moisture. And she's like, let me get you. And she sprays it in my eyes instead of my nose. Like, honey, it's in my eyes. Oh, okay. Sprays it again. Sprays it in my ear. No, in my nose, honey. Yeah, come on. Right? But we, instead of being pissed off about it, we just laugh about it. That's my girl. She'll bump into a wall when we're walking. Like, honey, what's going on? But these are qualities. Like, the things before, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? It's like, you adore them in your partner. The things you used to think had to be a certain way. Like, I'm so grateful. Crazy and wild, not wild, but it's like crazy and weird. Weird was not on my list. That was not on my list. I got everything else on my list, but I also got weird. Weird is one of my most special qualities for my wife. I love this woman more than anything. She's one of the weirdest human beings you've ever known in her entire life. Somebody came and just took our picture off camera, right? And she goes to me and goes, it's like, looks at him like this, you know. And you can see the guy panic, goes, you took the best pictures of us in the past. But her face is like, right? So we have all these parts of our personalities.
Sometimes you tell really great stories.
You know it's true. You know it's true, right? So ask the poor cameraman who's freaking out, right? Because in my wife there's feminine and masculine. In me, there's feminine and masculine. We're not like one or the other, and we learn how to use both. And that's the goal, right? Not to be one thing, not to let someone label you, but to use all your resources as a human being. So let's talk about those three things that, well, there's six really because they're all human. But when you're in your feminine, whether you're a man or a woman, there are certain tendencies of things that you're more sensitized to. They're not the only thing you're sensitized to. And when you're in your masculine, there's some things you're more sensitized to. And if you can notice your partner and what they're feeling, these will be really helpful. So we'll reverse it.
Sure.
I'll talk to the brothers out there, the masculine people, which can be men or women, but the ones that spend more time in their masculine. The thing you might miss that the feminine force in your life would have, and by the way, let me be clear.
I was going to say something too.
If you have two women in a relationship, or two men in a relationship, or a man and a woman intersexual relationship, in order to have energy, there's an opposite, passion. There's an opposite energy, just like the planet has positive and negative energy, north and south pole, or you go to electricity, two plugs. That's what creates it. When both people become the same, you can have a relationship that works, but it won't have as much passion. When a person's in their feminine, gentlemen, if you are not getting through, there are three things I can point out to you that you want to look for, besides the four horsemen, that are even quicker. And one of those, gentlemen, is that we can be, when I say gentlemen, masculine energies, can be that a woman feeling or a feminine energy feeling unseen. Again, it could be a man or a woman. If someone feels unseen in a feminine energy, man or woman, there's a deadness inside. There's a loss of energy. There's a wilting away. And again, you could be a man and feel this as well.
Yes.
Right? Second, big one. By the way, ladies, how many can relate to this? Feminine energies out there, men or women. Unseen makes you not feel so good. Make some noise so that people can see. Put it in the lunchbox. In fact,
and you notice a lot of men and women are both. I've just noticed watching all the, image or the pictures of you right now on Zoom. This is the human experience. These are human qualities, experiences. This is where we all meet. It really struck me to see the universality of people that were raising their hands.
And then, and by the way, very often a person will. If someone cheats in a relationship, oftentimes, if it's a feminine energy, whether it's a man or a woman, it's because now they find somebody who they feel seen by. They could even be their doctor who professionally they feel the most presence more than they did from the person in their life. And they feel horrible about it, but that's what pulled them. The second one for someone, man or woman, when they're in that feminine energy is not feeling understood. Feminine energy out there, if not being understood makes you crazy, make some noise, give me some thumbs up, show me what it is out there. Come on, make some noise so they see you, right? Now, I remember, with my wife in the early days, not understood. I mean, and I realized I didn't understand. There's certain things I'm not going to understand. I'm not going to understand the biochemical storm that every woman goes through that no man will ever fully appreciate. I'll never fully understand what it takes to have a baby come through your body. No man ever will. But I can appreciate. I can understand how painful it would be. If you watched with Will when he said to her, which came from this discussion we'd had earlier in the week, listen, that must have been really hard for you. That was me. I'd coached the whole team before, the gentleman in the room and the masculine energy in the room. You got to affirm the difficulty because masculine energy tries to take big things and make it small and get it done, get rid of it. Feminine energy in all of us wants to take things and feel more of it and expand it. So being understood is really important.
I want to share one more thing as well that innocently, we can all do this, is there's an unconscious belief at times that we can have as humans that the other person knows what we're experiencing, or they know what we're feeling, or they know what we're going through. And I remember earlier on in our relationship when I used to be upset if he didn't understand me. The truth is, I didn't understand myself. And, one of the beautiful gifts of that practice of so is being able to articulate, what it is that we're experiencing or what the sensations that we're feeling. Because sometimes if we're charged or we're hooked, that comes out in a really clunky way, or it comes out in a harsh way. And then we want to be understood or we want to be heard, but, the other person isn't receiving it. That's my job. That's our job. That's 100% responsibility. If I want to be heard or I want to be understood, then I can share from a space that my beloved can actually hear. I don't know if that translates or makes sense or registers.
I think it does.
Yes.
Absolutely. Third one, for masculine energy that you might be missing if things aren't going well, is your partner doesn't feel safe. So unsafe. We're looking at these as 3 U's, feeling unsafe. And this is one that I think, just like Gottman showed that stonewalling is more 85% men, That's not all men, obviously, but mostly men. This one has a lot to do with what your sex is and your biochemistry. And I'll prove it to you. Watch this. Gentlemen out there, and anyone who has a masculine energy, to say gentlemen, I'm really saying masculine energy. If you see yourself as most associated with the masculine energy in your life, raise your hand if you felt unsafe in the last 30 days. Unsafe. Raise your hand. And if you look at the screens, I see 1 hand, right? 2 hands. Okay, and if I look on the screens here, yeah, a couple. Interesting. Now watch this. If you're a feminine force, raise your hand if in the last 30 days you've had some concern for your safety at some moment in time. Raise your hand so everyone can see it nice and high, please. And if you put it in the chat box, and if you look around the room here, you'll see of those that are coming at least in the physical feminine form, it's about 90%. Now, why is that? Because men don't understand this. Masculine energy doesn't understand this. If my wife, I understand this way, if my wife was going to go underground to underground parking lot late at night, I'm not letting her go without me, right? But I don't think about it when I go down there. I'm 6'7". It's not like I'm some beast or giant, but it's just not my experience. So maybe if I was working in a certain environment that was more extreme and the safety might show up, but it's pretty rare. Men don't understand, masculine energy understand that feminine energy has been a target for so long. I mean, it blows my mind that women go on a date because the most usual way that a feminine woman's going to die, a person's going to die, is at a masculine person's hands. That's why the feminine has had to learn how to sometimes use language or words to take someone down to size in their mind to try to create some safety. Because if you put pound for pound the same person in a male or female body, the muscular strength is different. It's the bone density is different. It's just there. So there's prey and there's those that have pursued prey, right? Predators. And in the traditional sense, it's there. So men don't realize, and masculine energy understand, that feminine energy, in whatever form, can feel unsafe. And it's a real thing. And so when someone feels unsafe, they close. When someone feels unsafe, you're not going to feel the connection. You might feel rejected when they're just not feeling safe. Or maybe you've said things that make them feel uncertain. And so if you notice with Kit and Will, what happened was she tested. This is a common experience of the feminine. Everything's going great now. They've got things going better. And then kick them right in the balls right at that point. Like, yeah, but are you really doing this? And it's actually not her way of trying to be mean. It's her brain saying, reassure me, show me that even if I'm crazy, you're still going to love me. That's what feminine energy does in men too when they're in that energy state. So these three, could you be better at noticing the changes in your partner, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing? Could you better at least giving empathy for what you don't understand and trying to understand? Could you do things to make them feel safe? If you know those three used, your relationship is going to soar with a person who has a feminine energy as a dominant. Now, if they're more masculine, then everybody, by the way, doesn't want to be criticized. We've already made that clear. But notice, criticism is something that if you're in the feminine world, you can give advice. If you're in the masculine world, it's not looked the same way. Men don't usually coach other men on their relationship, almost never. Unless you've paid somebody for that, which most men don't want to do. They don't want to discuss the relationship, right? Most men, they want to keep it inside. So maybe you can share the 3 C's that those that are feminine can notice in their masculine partners, or someone who, if they're in their masculine, can be more sensitive and we want to be more connected to.
Absolutely. Well, the first one being criticism. Mm-hmm. And, it can be so slight. It can be so nuanced. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it as human beings. As Tony said, sometimes like coaching, believing that I know better for this man. I still catch myself when it comes to Tony's body at times. Maybe if we're looking at the schedule and in my mind's eye, I believe maybe he's doing too much or he's got too much going on or I'm worried about his health. Now it's tricky. It's tricky because a lot of times, mine can justify. It's like, well, of course I love him. I want him to take care of him. So my opinion is better than how he's living his life. And so here's something that I find very, very helpful. Before, and by the way, I catch myself, I do not have this mastered. All of this, these
you
are
do
just...
a great job at this.
Well, but it's awareness, right? And none of this is about being perfect. It's awareness. If you catch yourself criticizing, man or woman, catch yourself. And it's like, hun, do you know what? I just realized right now, I was like, I didn't even realize I was telling you what to do or giving you feedback about how you should do it. I mean, I know it's your life and I know you know better. Sometimes I'll say say the schedule, I'll say, hun, look, this is not even my business, but just as a consideration. And I'll tell him that, like, I just love you. This is completely selfish. It's all about me. I love you and I care so deeply about you. So our state in which we communicate something is so crucial and so important. And, sometimes I'll say, hey, I tried to muzzle her and I didn't today. And I'm sorry about that because sometimes she has a mind of her own.
Also, it goes beyond that. A lot of times you think your experience is your partner's experience.
Yeah.
So... Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze again.
Bless you. I got a tissue.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Hey, guys.
Love you, crazy one.
I love these real moments right now.
It's never happened to me before. It's kind of nuts. When we get on an airplane, for example, my wife has a very, very beautiful, sensitive body that feels every texture and element. And so we get on a plane, and up until recently,
yes, okay, this was
for
a
like
big
about 10 years.
So when I get on a plane, I love to put my comfies on and sweats, and I have my earplugs, and I have an eye mask, and Tony would be traveling, and he'd have jeans on. And I would be obsessed about his experience, believing like, how can he be laying there? He's wearing jeans and he's got a belt on and it's cutting him off. And I'd literally be like, honey, will you please change your pants? I mean, it sounds so ridiculous now when I say it. And why? Because we project innocently. I was projecting his experience. I mean, he just has a body. He can wear whatever he wears and it doesn't trouble him. I'm the opposite. I really I love my Snuggies and I want my little furry socks and I want, just little things that makes it comfy and cozy.
Which I want you to have.
No, I know you do, but I
support
wanted
in
him
every
to
way.
have them too. And this
But she wanted me to have them whether I wanted them or not. Honey, you got to change. I'm like, honey, I'm doing something. No, you got to change right now. And she'd be all stressed out. So after a while, all right, I'll freaking change. And then so after a while, it's like, I don't hear the same sounds. I don't need an eye mask. But it was so important to her, and so I started doing it. Now, then I go on the road, and I'm not wearing the eye mask. All of a sudden, I'm hearing sounds. I got to put my eye mask on. It became my habit as well, right? So it can be fun to do as well. And by the way,
yes.
I could be wanting to help my wife. Like, okay, well, we'll talk about this. Let's do that. And if she's in feminine mode, she might want that. If she's more masculine, she's like, I don't need to hear this right now. Right? And she doesn't do it harshly like that usually, but I got it. Right? It's like, I know you got it. You're the most confident human I know. But it was just a suggestion. But okay, don't tell me what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
And isn't it beautiful in this human experience to recognize that we have it all inside of ourselves, We're not one or the other. We have both energies. Bless you. I'm just getting another tissue. And it's really about access to both within inside of ourselves. And every moment, calls something different. And, we don't have to be in this box or it doesn't have to look this fixed way. Love has many faces and he shows up in the most beautiful way through us. And these are just things that we have found helpful, definitely. And by the way, for myself anyways, say if I was down a stream and I was not my most conscious self and maybe I was criticizing or I was harsh in my voice, or the next one is about closing and I felt closed. What I find so helpful is, in the moment is to catch yourself and I'll say, hun, you know what? I'm so stacked right now, and I'm probably not communicating in my best way. And can we just have a reset? Sometimes I'll go and I'll literally move from that space. I'll go wash my face or brush my teeth. I know that sounds silly, but it's just like catching my breath so that I can come back in and open to the moment. The second one is closing. Once again, we can all close.
Second C, so if you're following along, right? So if you're looking to see things are sensitive, and you're in the feminine energy, the masculine energy will be turned off if you feel close to them.
Yes. And so, if you find yourself, a lot of times we close because maybe we're feeling fearful or we're feeling overwhelmed or we feel stacked or it's a judgment of our mind. But we all know what that feels like. We know what being open and loving and connected, because it's our natural state. So if you're feeling that resistance, for myself, I speak it. And it's like, you know what? I'm feeling closed right now, or I'm feeling stacked right now, or I'm feeling resistance right now. It's nothing to do with you.
Again, notice not blaming the other for what you're feeling, taking responsibility for what you're feeling, and then your partner is pulled to you. They want to help. Oh, what can I do? What's going on?
This is my stuff. And by the way, as we admit what we become aware of, it's so easy to see what our partner's doing. Oh, he's so this or she's so that. But not the game, but the gift is for our own awareness to see ourselves and then catch yourself. Catch yourself. It's like, babe, you know what? I'm so sorry. I've been so freaking crazy today. And I just came at you and I just probably felt harsh or I felt closed. I'm sorry. Can we just reset right now? We always offer a reset in real time. And what does that do? It invokes willingness. It invokes compassion, and it invokes understanding. It invokes an opportunity to come back in the back door and, try this again. It's kind. And so, for myself, if I feel that resistance, I just admit it. And that breaks the pattern. Rather than you're so closed right now. This is all about us. It's all about us. Even in an intimate relationship, you just keep the eye on you. Because I can't change him. You can't change her. But I can change myself.
And that's what influences the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And no, sorry, go ahead.
No, please. So, but the other one is, is controlled is a universal one. No one wants to be controlled. Who wants to be controlled by somebody out there? Well, maybe in a certain sexual context, somebody might. But controlled is not love, right? So that's true for men or women.
Yes.
But again, if a person's in their masculine, they're even more sensitized to it. And if you're in your feminine and you're feeling unsafe, you try to take control, whether you're a man or a woman. That's what happens. So we'll talk a little about that.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to think of a circumstance right now. There's familiar patterns to all of this, but once again, that control feels like tension, or it can feel like criticism, or it can feel like closing. A lot of these actually, as I think of them, it's nuanced. They link together, or they can actually all come together as an aggregate. But the control, for myself, I think it's just the awareness when I feel that resistance, when I feel that tension, or if I feel, my behavior or my action is less than loving, to just own and clear the space, or remove yourself from the space so that you can get a more sincere resonance. Because if you think about it, it's all energy, and that controlling energy, it can feel dense, it can feel heavy. And so if you feel that, and it's like, oh my gosh, this just feels so awkward, or it feels so, it just feels like so much resistance for myself. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times it's just leaving that space. And by the way, before I leave, I don't just leave and slam the door. I'll tell him.
No.
I'll say, do you know what, hon, just like I am so in my head right now, and I feel controlling to myself, never mind you. And so I'm sorry, I need 10 minutes. I need 10 minutes. I'll come back, okay? And I'll walk up the stairs, and for myself, catching my breath, I'm like, all right. I'm like, I talk to myself, like, all right, sweetheart, let's just catch your breath. And I'll follow my breath, and I'll go upstairs and just, get back into my body, get back into my heart, so that I can feel true to myself, never mind true to this beloved that I'm wanting to connect to. And so all of these that we're sharing today, like I said, as I watch, criticize, close, controlled, they really go hand in hand.
They do.
They really go hand in hand. You can,
and they could be for anyone, male or female.
Of course.
Clearly.
Of course. And, it's really just about catching ourselves. That's what this whole experience, this whole human experience, never mind relationship, is about. It's not about perfection. It's about honesty. It's about authenticity. It's about sincerity. And that breaks the pattern. And we forget sometimes, we've been in a place early on in our relationship where it felt so, there's so much resistance both ways. It's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get through this? You get through that by one person just going first and being like, babe, I love you so much. And I'm so sorry recently I felt so tight, or I felt so constrict, or I felt so controlling. It's not been my intent, and I'm sorry that it's been conveyed that way. I love you so much. That's what it looks like. You just catch yourself. And sometimes, we get into these states of resistance, and we forget our own nature, never mind our beloveds. And so it's been my experience in our relationship that if one person just comes to the moment of clarity, the moment of sanity, or coming back into our heart, to offer that in that moment, it rewrites the narrative. It rewrites the reality. It rewrites the moment. And it's so kind, because it's our nature to come back home. We're all walking each other home. And there's nothing more beautiful than to hold the space. At this stage of it's been 23 years. If Tone's off, it's a beautiful gift to be able to hold the space for him. If I'm off, he holds the space for me. We do that collectively with all of our loves in our family and in our life. And I think it's kind to be a bum, yes. B-A-L-M. It's kind to hold this space and be like, babe, you don't see yourself. Is there anything I could do? Is there anything that would be supportive right now? And by the way, the answer might be like, no, I just need time. That's cool too.
There's no punishment in a beautiful relationship. You're never withholding your love to try to punish the other person, because when you withhold love, you punish yourself. And so many people have been trained, like, I'm going to train this person. I'm not going to give them love if they behave a certain way. Remember I talked to you about some of you, and maybe it was during the Q&A afterwards. It may not be the VIP, but there's a book out there I read years ago called Don't Shoot the Dog. It's kind of a funny title, Don't Shoot the Dog. But it talks about how we condition each other. And it talks about you can train a dog by punishing it, but you can't train a dolphin that way because it'll swim away. And so the only way you can train a dolphin is with love or with rewards. And so humans really at the deepest level respond better to that approach than they do by you trying to control. And by the way, if you're dealing with something that's got a masculine energy is about breaking free. Feminine energy is about bringing it in. And so sometimes that dynamic plays a role as well. But what we want to see is, throwing back on the screen here, the 3 U's, again, are, and they can be either way, is feeling unseen. If your partner feels not understood or unsafe, if they've got a feminine energy in them in that moment, male or female, you got problems. And what's the opposite? Is to see them, to take the time to understand and have compassion, to do whatever it takes them to feel safe. If they're in that masculine energy, or anyone, if they're feeling criticized, anybody who's even beat themselves up, even you barely say anything, man or woman, they're going to react to it. But if they're feeling criticized or feeling you're closed or feeling controlled, then you're generating the problem yourself. So these are just tools to break through. So just for 1 second, give yourself a score. Give yourself a score on, if you're in a relationship, okay, 0 to 10, we'll do -10 to +10. Unseen, how often am I messing that one up? Or how well am I doing? Not understood. Unsafe. And then you might ask your partner later on about it and have them actually give you their feedback where they feel safe to give the feedback. Or if it's the opposite energy, are they feeling criticized? Advice and coaching feels critical for some people. Closed, controlled. How would you score yourself in that area? Just give yourself a score real quick so you can see where you can improve. How would you score yourself overall or in each area together? I'm seeing some of you give yourself an overall score, and I'm seeing 10, I see 6, I see 4, I see 7, I see 4, I see 7, I see 8, I see 9. And by the way, again, would you ever want to date a 4? Would you ever want to be in a relationship, with a 7? I mean, we all have the ability to at least be an 8, 9, or 10, right, if we're conscious about it. So just give yourself a little score, because you can't manage what you don't measure. And so this little checklist, along with a Gottman checklist, kind of gives you a place of where you can look for if things aren't working, boom, or to make sure that they stay working at a great level. Anything else you want to share, sweetheart?
No, it's just, are we wrapping up right now? Am I going?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. We're a little over.
Well, I'm so sorry. It's just been so awesome.
We've had such a good time.
Thank you for your willing hearts. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your support of each other. And I don't know if this is goodbye. If it is, thank you. And if it isn't, if you guys are choosing to, take the next step at UPW, all I can tell you is I've had a front row seat to watch this beautiful human being pour all of himself. And you've seen the transformation, whether it be Enrico or James or Christina. This week has been a scratch. And I hope that one day, if you choose to, we'll be seeing you at the UPW. And if not, God bless you, and we'll see you again, okay?
Give it up for Sage Robbins, ladies and gentlemen. Where are you going?
I love you.
Got your shoes. Stand up, shake your body out. Stand up, shake your body out. Here we go. Wake it up! Come on, wake it up! Stay standing, shake your body out. How many got lots today to be able to utilize practical things? Awesome. We went way the heck over. You guys are phenomenal. Stay with us. We got caught up in the conversation, so thank you. But before we go, and before we go our final announcements, shake your body out, and let's do 2 seconds to make sure we engage ourselves. I want you to make a move that makes you feel strong. Whatever that is, make that move. Make it again. Make it again. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. And close your eyes just for a moment, standing tall and feeling strong. And with your eyes closed, I want you to think about the areas of your life, because my teacher Jim Rohn used to say most people major in minor things. They know more about a celebrity's relationship or divorce or lack thereof than they know about how to make themselves happy or healthy. So we've been trying to focus these days on the most important things. There's only about a half dozen or more. It's your body and your energy, right? It's your emotions. It's your relationships. It's your finances. It's your career. It's the spiritual and celebratory side of life and contribution side of life. So right now, if you think about your life, think about, what do you really want to improve? What do you want to improve? Is it your relationship? Is it your finances? Is it your body, your energy? Is it your business? And probably more than one thing, but think of one in particular right now while you're in state. What's something you really want to improve? And then make a decision right now. What are you going to do to improve your energy or your body or your relationship? Are you going to practice these, making sure you eliminate these 4 horsemen? Are you going to do some sewing, right? Are you going to be in a place where you think of the 3 U's or C's, make it better? What are you going to do to make it better? What? Make your move again, nice and strong. Make your move. Make your move. Make your move. Say yes. With your eyes closed. The only thing that changes their life is decisions. So what's a little decision you can make right now to make your relationship better, or make your body or your mind or your emotions or your career or business better? What's a decision? What's an action that you could take? Excuse me. What's an action you could take immediately to improve that area in your life? Decide how you're going to improve it, what you're going to improve, and then what's an action? What's a little action you could take? And then what's a big action you could take? Because one thing I've learned is never leave the sight of making a decision or setting a goal without doing something to commit yourself to follow through while you're still in state. Have you ever done this before? Have the best intention to do something, and then you get back home and get caught up in your calls and your texts and all, and you don't do it because you're no longer in state. So while you're in state, what is it you want to change? Make a decision, something you're going to improve. And then what are 2 actions you could take? A little action you could take immediately today. Someone you could call, something you could enroll in, a class you could take, a mentor you could coach, a meeting you could set up with someone to let them know you love them, something you could end, something you could be beginning, an email. What are you going to do right after this class to make sure you follow through in this area? What's a little decision? And then what's a second bigger decision or bigger action you could take that would commit you to go to the next level? Is there someone you need to call? Is there a letter you need to write? Is there a class you need to enroll in? Is there something you need to do for someone? Is there something you need to give up and commit to? You know, I've been this way. Is there an apology you need to give? Heartfelt. What's an action that would commit you to follow through on what you're committing to? That you could do today. Even if it's the middle of the night where you are. Make a decision right now that you know if you make this decision and act on it right now, your life will improve significantly. How many have already thought of at least 1 or 2 things you can do immediately, decisions you've made? Make some noise if you've already picked 1 or 2. Then do this. I want you, with your eyes closed, imagine you made the decision, you took the little action, you took the big action that was hard, and you followed through, and it's a year from now, and your whole life is better. Make the sound of what life feels like a year from now if you follow through on these decisions and actions. Nice and loud, a celebratory sound. Go and do it. Feel like it's really there. That's it. True celebration. What's your life really like if you live it this way? Feel it. Make the sound of it. Enjoy it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Awesome. Awesome. Come on, take the energy up 1 more. Double the energy of celebration. Oh, yes. So your assignment is simple. What is it you want to improve? Share with us. What do you want to improve in your life or your relationship specifically? Where's the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and what are you going to do differently? Or, what's your score for yourself on those 3 C's or 3 U's? What would you do differently? So think of it as hashtag relationship vision challenge, and just say, here's how I've been, here's how I want to be. Here is the old story. You can do it this way. Here's the old story of my relationships in the past. Here's what the new story is. Here's the old identity in relationship. here's my new identity and relationship. Or here's how I've done on these 3 C's or U's or these 4 horsemen, and here's something different. You pick. But just show us where it was and where it's going to be, what you're going to do to make it better in 2023, so you really follow through. Has this been helpful today, my friends? We have one more day together, one more day. VIPs, I'll be here in a few moments, but crank your energy up. One more day. Make sure you join in the Facebook group and give it up for our one and only Kiki.
Thank you. Let's give some love to Tony and Sage Robbins, everyone. In the chat, give them your hearts, your love. They're right over here. Beautiful work today, Relationship Day. Whoa, yes. Well, today was the most Tony Standard Time we've had you on, but who enjoyed this by a show of hands? Who got a ton out of this? YouTube, Zoom, everybody. So let's get into our assignment and prizes, and then we will VIPs have you in just 10 minutes after this quick break. So first things first, your relationship vision. One thing I want to remind you of is when you go live for this, you're actually going to use your body with passion and activate your physiology to explain what this vision is. So you're going to score yourself on the 3 C's, 3 U's, and what would you do differently? If that sounds good, give me a big old wave, our VIPs, so I can see. Everybody else put yes in that chat box. Okay, cool. Now let's move on to some prizes. So these winners are from yesterday's Closing the Gap Challenge. You guys, I said this earlier today, but we cannot even say it enough how impressed we are with how full out you are playing, your dedication, how open, how vulnerable. You're really, really letting it rip. And Tony watches these till like 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Like, he's obsessed with all of you. We love you guys. You've been amazing. So we have 3 winners. Somebody is going home with a iPad fully loaded with all of Tony's content shipped to your front door. And then we have 2 people getting a membership for an entire year to Tony Robbins' Inner Circle. This is a project he created a couple years back, and you get mentoring directly with Tony 3 times a year, like you're going to be in Tony's office with him on a Zoom call. You're going to have over 100 hours of Tony's top audio program content, and then monthly training with his top coaches. So winner number 1 is from Arizona. This person works with veterans, and they've been borrowing money to stay afloat. And the next step to close the gap for this beautiful woman is to become the biggest VA lender in the state of Arizona. And the winner is Donna Price. Yes, it's you! Look at that! Yes! We're shipping it straight to your front door. And Donna, here's what's amazing. All of this content for exactly what you want to do to become the biggest VA lender, you're going to need all of these programs Tony's created. He spent his entire lifetime putting these together. And the moment you get your hands on it, you could start it. Go at your own pace audio. It's going to be beautiful. Congratulations. All right. Winner number 2 is from Baltimore. And this person is an entrepreneur and educator with a couple businesses that's been struggling a bit, and the belief that she was stuck. And then she spent the last couple days with Tony, and she said, that's total BS. I am not stuck. And she called her team and said, guys, we're taking this to the next level. And the winner is, excuse my pronunciation, Ayan Olivia. There she is! So you're getting a full year membership to Tony Robbins' Inner Circle, the greatest training club on the planet. You're going to have an amazing peer group, most importantly. So congratulations. All right, our 3rd winner from Miami, Florida. This person is in the travel business, and despite COVID, they did phenomenal throughout that season, but they want to take it to another level. And most importantly, this person said he needs a kick butt peer group. So you're getting Inner Circle. Sebastian Grosjean, it's you, my man. Awesome. Congratulations. So, for all of you, like we said, we believe in 4th chances. If you have not done your assignment yet, or play full out, or did a video in the group, this is your moment to do it tonight with your Relationship Vision Challenge. And you could maybe even win a relationship program from Tony and Sage tomorrow. That's like the best ever. So do that challenge right away when we're done so it's fresh in your mind. Couple housekeeping items. Tomorrow we're starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, and it is our final day together. It's the home stretch. stretch. So can we all make a commitment to one another, just this small group of 1 million of us, that we will be here, finish strong for this last day on time at 2 p.m. Eastern? Yes? It is Integration Day, so Tony will be taking us through how do we take everything we've learned and plug it in so it lasts inside of us, so it sticks. Cancel your plans. Be there live. We're giving away over $20,000 in prizes, and one of Tony's dear friends, who is an expert in so many different things, is going to be joining us as a surprise guest, so you don't want to miss that. And then VIPs, we start in 10 minutes. My final message for you guys is our Unleash the Power Within, March 16th through the 19th. You can go to upwnow.com to go get all of that information. You want to move and say yes to yourself in a quick fashion, because we've got the beautiful limits of technology, so we can't have all of you if we wanted to. So go there, get yourself in, and then tomorrow we'll be celebrating all day and going on this ride in just 48 days together. We cannot wait to see you, but let's end this thing with some freaking energy. Get up out of your seats. It's Relationship Day. Put some energy in your body and shake the virtual building in 3.